Welcome, everybody. Another Friday, another episode of Heavy Metallurgy. And I'm joined again with my buddy Alan. Alan, good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Good to see you, Marty. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's been a crazy week for a lot of folks around the country, but hope everyone is doing well and ready to relax and have fun. I'll get that muted just here in a second.
Rookie mistake.
And
again,
I've got some new AV stuff here, and so yeah, I'm still getting used to what to click and where. But there we go.
But joining us this week, Austin Lunn from Panopticon, dear friend of mine, co-owner of Binary Recordings, and head brewer and owner of Hammerheart Brewing Company. Thanks for joining us, Austin. I know public speaking isn't your high on your list of things to do, but we're glad you joined us.
Like Blaze Foley said, I only open my mouth to change feet. So
that's a good one, actually.
Coming on though to hang out for a while.
Happy to do it.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. It's good to see you. 27 of you already, and there's room for more. So let's pile on in, and I will try to keep up with the chat tonight and post any stuff up on the screen that's relevant.
Yep. But if I'm not posting as much in the chat tonight, folks, again, I'm just getting used to sort of a new setup here, so I'm a little clumsy with where the keyboard and stuff are at right now. So if I'm not posting, it's not that I'm ignoring you; it's that I can't find the right button to push.
Maybe it's me.
What?
I've got headphones. Should I put those in and see if that kills the?
I'm not hearing. It might be me. Mine sometimes echoes, but I think we'll be fine. It'll be okay.
Everything sounds okay on my end so far.
I can. Yeah. Okay. It went away. Never mind.
Okay.
Well, Austin, thanks again for joining us. I guess before we get started, it'd be good to talk about Panopticon for a second. You've had a very good year so far. Very well-received album. Again, Into the Light. Well, we blew through those real quick. And I do want to say, before we get going with anything too serious, that for those of you that are waiting for a repress, it is at the plant. The plant says it's not going to be ready until March of 2022 because of delays, backups, shortages. I don't know what the deal is, but it's not just us, it's everybody. So it is coming. A repress is coming for those of you that missed it. But yes, after Again Into the Light, you've been busy, haven't you?
Yeah, I am always busy, I guess. If I'm not doing something all the time, I get bored and get sad. So, but yeah, I've been through the pandemic. So, and Again Into the Light took so long to track, and I kind of went through at one point. I went through some writer's block, and then I got it all done, and then we had the mixing. And because there's so much on the record, there's so many layers, it was kind of hard to, it was kind of hard to mix it. So we shot the mix back and forth. And then Spencer and I got it to where we wanted it to be. And then we sent it to Colin, and then Colin dissected it. And then we had to kind of go back and mix it again. And we ended up doing it just over and over and over again until it was finally finished. And, yeah. And so once that was done, after this kind of arduous process of writing the record, recording the record, and then mixing the record, and then remixing the record again and again, and also with the heavy subject matter of the album, it was time to write new music and to start, writing something that I was enjoying, instead of like rehashing those old feelings and, going over and over. It's like reading your journal over and over again. And so I started writing, and initially the idea was to just do a single LP, like 2 super long songs, with kind of conceptual record about like 2 things at once. On one end of the album, talking about the climate crisis and about how winters in in Minnesota are changing because of the climate crisis, and how a lot of our our ecosystem is changing. A lot of the boreal forest was, because it's for this landscape and this ecosystem to be this far south, it's more of like a northern ecosystem, and it's unique because of the way that the glacial pathway is kind of carved through the area, and it created this, it looks in northern Minnesota and in central Minnesota looks more like, Scandinavia and Canada than it does the rest of the Midwest. And so it's really unique ecosystem. But as it's warming here, plants like indicator species like tamaracks are starting to die off. And we're having wildfires, which we have wildfire going on right now. The Isabella wildfire actually started across the road from my cabin. And things have been really tense around here because we're trying to figure out if this place that I spend so much time is going to survive this fire. It's already burned 6,000 acres. And 6,000 acres that me and my family and my friends hike together often. I mean, places I'll never get to see again because they're burned. Yeah. So it's been kind of a tense couple days, and it's ironic because this is the subject matter of this new record. And the new record it's a dual concept record. It's also about aging, because I'm getting to be middle-aged now and kind of seeing my life change and my responsibilities and my perspective on the world change. So I decided to write the lyrics about two things at once, like writing about this like identity crisis, midlife crisis kind of thing, but also writing about the climate crisis at the same time. So it was like this kind of, I guess, allegory, this parallel concept. So the album is called The Rime of Memory. Like rime is like the frost that you see on plants in the winter. It's like that thick, icy frost that doesn't last very long. And so it's actually turned out, I started it during the pandemic, and then the pandemic went on and on. So I just kept writing. So I ended up over the entire pandemic, like writing this like 70-minute long album. It's super long and it's really intense, and it's more kind of a shimmery, sparkly kind of sound, like got a lot of this kind of post-black, but it's a lot more vicious as the black metal side of it. There's less death metal and doom involved in it than there was in Again Into the Light. There's a lot more traditional instruments, but more in the realm of like Scandinavian instruments, like a hardanger fiddle, and there's like a bunch of accordion and all this kind of stuff. It's real dreary and gloomy. So it's quite different than the last record, the artwork, Beck did all, as usual, Beck did all the artwork, but this time she completely like took the reins again, kind of like in Again Into the Light. So the artwork is very snowy and barren and
awesome.
Yeah. So, we're still working on it. Like the Patrick, the cellist, has got to do his parts, and then there's some guest vocalists, and then I think Colin Marston's going to mix it this time. So I'll be kind of reprising that relationship. Spencer did such a great job on the last one, so I'll work with him again, obviously. But I felt like this record was suited to Colin's sound, a less heavy, beefy sound. So yeah, so that's what's going on, and I'll finish it when I finish it, I guess. I'm just still working on it.
And sounds really interesting.
Family, we're about to move, so recording is going to be on hold for a minute while we move up to Ely, the far north of Minnesota. We'll be living there in December. So big changes around the Lunn house, I guess.
Yeah, definitely a year for change for sure. And it seems like it might be happening fast for people that just, got the Again Into the Light, but you got to realize, people don't realize there's a lot went into that album, a lot of years writing and working on that thing.
Yeah. 3
years. Hey, yeah. We've put out other stuff, splits and stuff, so it doesn't seem like it, from the outside looking in, it doesn't seem like it's that long of a turnaround. And
Sure.
this new one, we got Collapse. We'll be sending Collapse to the plant soon. I should have been getting that on the plant this week, but we'll try next week. Collapse is going. That's never been reissued. So,
well, and this is a totally different mix. So Spencer went back into the sessions and he fixed a lot of my screw ups, because I was a much younger man. I think I was 25 when I recorded that record, and so it's sloppy, and it was done very DIY. My friend, the other Austin, is the one who engineered that, and he really cleaned it up as best as he could. But now that we have so much technology now, so we were able to go into that and like clean up some of my mess ups and remix it for a clearer, heavier sound. So it this newer mix is significantly better. It's kind of the same thing that we did with on the subject of mortality and social disservices for the revisions of the past set. We kind of did the same thing with this, and it sounds awesome. So I'm really happy with it, and hopefully everybody else will be too, but can't make everybody happy, I guess.
Nope, you cannot. We can only make yourself happy. That's about all we can swing with here.
And of course, we also have the Chaos Moon remaster that is done, and we'll go to the plant at the same time.
Yep.
For
and
the
new Nachachuan,
which is undoubtedly their best record, which is a tough thing to say because all their records are so good, but this new Nachachuan is it's their finest moment thus far. It is absolutely a stunning record.
It's called Kana Black.
It is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
I listened to it a lot on my runs. I started trail running 5 months ago, and I do it 5 times a week now. And holy crap, that I listen to that record when I'm running, and it's unreal. It's just unbelievable.
So all kinds of good stuff coming out of y'all's camp in the near. Like
we've all been very busy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think folks are going to be really excited for all of those releases for sure, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as all of you out there know, with Heavy Metallurgy, we bring on guests and we let them pick the topic. And Austin, what did you decide to go with for this? For this chat session we got going on here.
So you and I talk every morning on my drive to work, which is like a 40-minute drive. And so I, for the past 8 years, I call you pretty much every morning and we talk. And what we talked about is all these like kind of unsung records. Ooh, that's not great. Oh, that was an expensive beer too. I'll live. Has really cool artwork though. It says, "Beer drinking is not a crime." I think it would have been really good if it wasn't old.
Yeah.
It's really high alcohol, so that's awesome. Yeah. Anyways, so we were talking about all these kind of unsung records either by bands that went on to have illustrious careers at a later date, or bands that were completely overlooked. Because everybody thinks of the classic era of the like 90's black metal. Like there's like a handful of bands that really made a name. Either they had conflict or, some sort of infamy surrounding them that propelled them. And they're great. I mean, a lot of those bands are incredible. Like some of my favorite bands are some of those classic bands like Heathen and Emperor and, those kinds of bands. Adore that stuff. But there's all this like handful of other bands that never really got their day in the sun. And a lot of them are still together to this day, and they put out these records that to me are indispensable classics, but to a lot of people they kind of act like, oh, I never heard that, or I never gave that band a chance. So that was kind of what we wanted to talk about, was kind of some of these unsung 90s bands and early 2000s bands.
I thought it would be a lot easier to pick for this, but as I was digging through the collection, I realized a lot of the stuff I was going to pick probably was a little bigger than I thought it was. But
I picked way too many records, so I apologize in advance. I've got
perfect
30 records.
You can pick up the slack. How'd you do, Alan?
Kind of in between. A little bit of the same problem you just mentioned, Marty, in that in my mind, some of these are like, yeah, they're not really that obscure. Maybe I need to dig deeper or something. But then thinking about it at the same time, a lot of these records are, actually 25 years old now. And when's the last time I heard anybody mention these bands? Or when's the last time even I took one of these off the shelf and played them? So, yeah, I think they fit the definition. They're good albums that by bands that maybe did a handful of albums. It's not that they were one and done or disappeared necessarily, but they never had that breakthrough success of Satyricon or an Emperor or Mayhem or something like that. They kind of live in the shadow of those bands a little bit. So some of these I'm definitely expecting folks will know a lot of these. There's not really completely underground cult stuff I've pulled out, but there are also ones that a lot of folks, like Austin said, may have been like, oh yeah, I've heard that name, but I never really got around to checking that one out. Some of these it took me a long time to get around to checking out, so we'll see how it goes.
Well, Austin, it's customary for the guest to go first, so you're going to go first. Let's see what you got.
The first record that I picked is the one that Ben thought that I would pick, which is this 7-inch by Borknegar, which is this is their only record, the 7-inch. It's pretty hard to get. It's 2 songs. It's the only. They had a demo. And this.
Did that come out on 10-inch as well? CD and 10-inch?
I don't know. I know I Nod from what's the Ritual Ambient band that he did with Gall. What's that band? I can't remember the name on the song.
I looked at the album too. One of the albums
Wardruna.
Okay.
This is before that, and he also did Jultanspor, was his other band.
Okay.
But so this is pre all that. Which, by the way, I just saw a comment. I left out Kvist because it's been talked about.
I did not.
Yeah. Great record. Incredible. But so, yeah, this kind of sounds like Bergtot era, but without the screamed vocals. And it's got kind of like a Hammerheart, Twilight of the Gods kind of vibe to it. But it's folkier melodies. It's got some female vocals in there. My wife Beck, this is like, these 2 songs are 2 of her favorite songs ever.
They're great.
And I love this record, and she gave this record to me for my birthday one year, and I know it wasn't cheap. And but it's just so good, and it's got this folky vibe to it, and it's just really, really beautiful. And I would love for somebody to pick this style up and run with it.
It's too bad they didn't.
I wish they had.
Yeah.
I wish that there was another just like secret album that never came out, because it's just incredible. It's so magical, and it's so beautiful, and it's great. And the recording is like really raw but very audible. You can hear everything really well, but it's not overproduced. Kind of almost sounds like it was recorded with a 4-track or something.
Yeah, but the folky elements give it a kind of an expansive sound, which is weird for probably the way it was recorded. It's just kind of a magical deal. It's really cool how it came together.
Your best bet of getting it, if to folks watching, your best bet of getting it is to find either the CD, because there's some copies floating around, or to just download it, because it's only 2 songs, and there is a demo that has 4 songs, I think.
There is?
Is it on Spotify?
I think so.
Becca says it's on Spotify.
Huh.
So
Here, I'll type it in.
Yeah, here I'll hold it up. Borknegar, it's behind the seventh mountain, or the seven mountains, or something like that. Patrick is on there. He'll get it. My Norwegian is not great. It's like a 10-year-old. So.
All right. Well, good choice, man. Good pick.
Yeah, it's a great record. Really, really good.
Alan.
All right. Only vinyl one that I'll show tonight is a favorite album I didn't hear for a long time because I never really heard this band talked about for a long time. But it's Beharit, Drawing Down the Moon.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is one that, for whatever reason, this band never got the same attention that other bands did. And again, they were from Finland instead of Norway or Sweden, and they changed sounds quite a bit on other recordings. They had sort of longer gaps between recordings sometimes, but yeah, it still surprises me how long it was before I heard this album. And I think this one has gotten more attention and a little more love in recent years. It's gotten some reissues on CD and stuff, so people have been able to check it out more. But it's a really unique sounding album, and it's an early album. And it's from '93. It's right in that classic swell of the early albums. And like a lot of those bands from that time, they had a completely unique sound. They weren't sounding like any other band on the scene. It's got almost this kind of slowed down Hellhammer type of vibe in the music. It's very thick, very murky. The vocal approach is really cool. It's very deep, demonic sounding, but there's all kinds of nice little touches sprinkled throughout the album. It's not just one big monotonous slab. Was it the Gardens of Nana? I think, they've got, extra, different little effects in there where it kind of has this, calm break in the middle of this very thick sounding album. So yeah, it's just one of those that, kind of fit that definition of, even though it's gotten talked about more over the past few years than it did before, it never really got the attention it deserves. Somehow it went overlooked at the time, and I feel like it's still catching up a little bit. So, yeah, I wanted to start off with Drawing Down the Moon, just a really incredible sounding album.
To me, that's a band that discovered its sound on that album. I mean, the first album, The Oath of Black Blood, is just two demos sandwiched together, and it sounds like shit. Yeah. It's just a shit mess.
Kind of does,
I mean, people uphold that as something fantastic. I can't listen to it. I never could. I bought it back in the day, and I just never got the charm of it. But that album, that was a little bit different. I think part of its charm is it's very juvenile sounding, but it's
in a way it's got that
twisted and weird on top of it. It just gives it kind of a refreshing sound from when it came out.
Yeah, it's a very simple sounding album in a lot of ways. It has that, it's that same quality, like early Hellhammer or early Samael, that there's nothing complicated about what he's doing at all.
No.
But it works extremely well. He really knew how to create, that very heavy and dark vibe in a way that nobody else really was at the time.
Right on. Good choice.
What you got first, Marty?
Well, this isn't an original copy. I wish it was, but I settled for the reissue that just came out here a few years ago. But Poland's Sacrilegium. This is Witcher. This band, the Polish scene, I think the Polish scene's got its, a very distinct sound, whether it's early Behemoth or Graveland or, all those bands that generally are pretty sketchy. But these guys apparently were not. I hope not. I don't really want to be showing them if they weren't. But this album is great. It's probably a standout for me in the Polish scene. It's got somewhat of a Polish sound, but the keyboards really give it a folky, strange atmosphere. The vocals are really harsh, really wretched, and there's just a weird atmosphere to this album. This came out in 96. They did 2 2 more full lengths, and the most recent one came out in 2019, which I have not heard yet. But, they're still going, and, it seems like all the other bands, for one reason or another, kind of skated past these guys when they were just as lethal and unique as anyone else in the Polish scene. And, man, I don't know what they were thinking with that album cover. That is just bad. Bad. The original is way better. I don't know why they didn't reuse it, unless they couldn't get the rights to it. I have no idea, but this is a reissue on Pagan Records. But definitely check out Sacrilegium. The name of the album is Witcher. Absolutely great, atmospheric black metal that sounds like it was from the 90s. It's just got that mystical charm to it that seemed to be running rampant back in those days. Anybody else heard that?
I've never heard that one. That's totally new.
Really good.
It rings a bell, but I don't. If I've heard it, it's been too long ago for me to remember.
All right, Austin, you're back. Let me get you around here. I can't believe we got one that Austin hasn't heard. Woohoo!
Oh, come on, man. You're just as deep in all this crap as me. So, I got Troll. It's Trollstorm Overknitting Youth. It's their first demo, and this is a recent vinyl reissue that just came out. I love this demo. I also have their first full length Drepte Krishna, and it's okay. It's a really, really keyboard heavy, which is fine. It's the keyboard is from Dimmu Borgir. It's like his project. And Marty, I don't know if it's the dude with the top hat. I just don't know.
But if it is, I definitely got to hear it.
I'm not really that familiar. I very briefly liked Dimmu Borgir. I pretty much at this point only like the For Alltid and Stormblast are like the only 2 records that I still listen to.
They're great.
But in the early 2000s, like everybody else, we were all listening to them.
Yeah.
But they just got too. I don't know. It just wasn't really my thing after a while. In the beginning, I liked them for a bit, when I first heard about them. But, it was such slim pickings in the South. You kind of took what you could get.
Yeah.
Yep.
And top hat broke out. But I love the vibe on this record. I love the feeling of it. It's lo-fi, but it's really atmospheric. It's only 4 songs. But it's got the same thing, like kind of that same like Manus feeling, It's awesome. I mean, it's just a really, really, really good 10-inch demo. They did a cassette reissue just recently.
Big Dread Records did that.
A while ago, they did a CD version that had new artwork on it. I much prefer the original art and all of its pink tree-covered glory.
Yep.
It definitely is not a T-shirt that I would wear. But, I don't really look good in pink. But this record is great. It has an awesome feeling. The photos on the back are hilarious. This guy's hugging a cross. Right? This guy's got like a nail spiked bat or mace or something. This dude's got like a big old knife. They definitely look like they mean business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really good. Like, I love the sound, the tone on it. The production's raw, but it's it's kind of lo-fi, but it's easy to hear. It's super atmospheric. It's just really good. I mean, if you like early black metal and you like that kind of more atmospheric keyboardy side of it without it being like, over the top keys like keytar or some shit. It's really, really good. It's great demo. And the first record's cool too. I mean, it's just, this is the one that I reach for the most. The other one, the keys are a little too far out in the front for me. I like the keys to be a little bit more subtle.
Sure.
So this is definitely worth your time if that kind of 90s black metal sound is something you're into.
It's been on my radar. It's just that trying to find a copy of it that isn't a bunch of money. I missed out on the tape reissues too. But
I got this online on the cheap. It was $20.
Really?
And I got it last year. This is a reissue. It's on, I think it's white wax.
Yeah.
Well, nice. It was cheap. It did not cost a bunch. I think I got it from an American distro too. So
nice.
There is. Yeah, I think there is a cover on it. I'd have to look. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've listened to it, but it's awesome. I mean, it's a good record if you're into that sound. So
here we go. Alan, you're up.
Okay. Now I won't have to show pictures of some things tonight. My black metal shelves got cleaned out several years ago when I had to do a collection purge. So I still have a lot of stuff digital that I have never picked back up on physical copies. So sorry for not having all OG stuff to show, but this one is a pretty cool album. This is another one that I heard about when it was released and just couldn't find. There was nowhere I could ever track it down. So it wasn't until much, much later that I got around to hearing it. And it's a very cool one, and I think it really falls into that category of they just missed the boat due to some bad luck. The one I'm talking about is Throne of Ahaz.
I was going to pull that one, and I skipped it. I was going to pull it, and I skipped it. That's a good album.
Yeah, it's a very cool album. It's Swedish, and they recorded it in 93. And I feel like if it had come out right then in 93, early 94, it would have made a bit more of a splash. But for reasons, it didn't actually get released until 1995. So it sat on the shelf somewhere for well over a year between the time it was ready to go and the time it was getting sold. And, that's a long time for a band to wait for their album to get out. A lot of other bands have a chance to kind of move ahead of you in the line in the meantime. In 93, black metal's, still exploding and people are getting into it for the first time. By 95, it's already a very established scene and things are getting pretty crowded. But it's a really cool album. The things I like about it that I think make it stand out a bit, it's got kind of a cold production, but it's still very clear. It's not lo-fi. It doesn't have the stereotypical, really, poor, thin kind of sound to it. But it still manages to have a pretty cold production sound. The other thing I really like about this one that I think sets it apart is that they play it a little slower. It's not, hyper fast tremolo picking and all that kind of stuff constantly. It has a little bit more of a medium to slower pace to it. And it gives the music a little bit of a kind of a doomy aura about it. It's not doom metal at all. I don't mean that. But just by slowing the pacing down, it gives it a different kind of atmosphere. There's a few sound effects on here, the typical, wind howling in the winter kind of thing. But they don't really use a lot of that to achieve their ambience. Instead, they've just got, this little slower pace that gives the music a little more weight than you associate with a lot of black metal from that period. And for me, that just clicks really well. That it's just like, that is really cool. It's something a little different. It's a little bit like what Psy did with some of the tracks on, Scorn and Defeat, that, they would play them at a slower, a little more crawling pace. And it made those songs, really distinct from other black metal acts.
Especially for their area, Alan. I mean, Sweden was kind of well known for fast blasting melodic black metal, and that album was kind of the opposite. But it was still melodic. It was just very slower, mid-paced.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about some other, like you said, Marty, more typical Swedish-sounding albums later on tonight. But yeah, this one stood out in the crowd, or it should have. And it just missed the mark. They did make a second album. I think it came out like in 96 or so, but that was kind of, the end of the line. So they didn't really follow it up. So yeah, Throne of Ahaz. Cool one if you want a little different take on Swedish black metal.
Awesome.
All right, Marty, over to you.
Over to me. Well, before I start jumping into the more heard bands, I guess we're going to go to Russia. And this is Old Waynes with their first debut, Where the Snows Are Never Gone. This band, for me, they might not have been doing much that was super original, but they completely assimilated their area perfectly. I mean, this album, the guy's vocals are really unique and demented sounding, and it almost sounds like a cold snowdrift is blowing through this album. It's just very cold, unrelenting, straightforward, melodic sometimes, but just really evil sounding, unrelenting black metal from Russia. So I mean that they kind of are set aside from a lot of the geographical influences that scenes typically have. They don't sound Norwegian, they don't sound Scandinavian, they don't sound German. They sound, if Russia had a sound, I would imagine this would be it. But these guys, the early stuff is really twisted and weird sounding. As they went, they got a little thrashier and a little weirder and kind of, I don't know, are they still together? It says they're active. They haven't put out anything since 2014. So
they had a string of records in the mid 2000s. I remember seeing them all over the place for a while.
And some of them are good, but like I said, as they went on, they changed their sound. This here is just very oppressive sounding. I don't know, really good stuff. The early Old Wayne stuff is choice. Austin,
I don't know that
real
one.
quick, going back to this Troll record, I think I was wrong. I think that that it's the solo project of a guy from Covenant, not Dimmy Borgir. And
which
also,
the first Covenant album is great. The rest of them are garbage.
It is really good.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think there's any covers on this demo. I think the last song has an asterisk by it, so I just thought it might be a cover. But I looked on Metal Archives and then I checked the liner notes, and I think it's originals. So the next record that I want to talk about is this Arcturus record, this Aspera Heims Sinfonia.
Oh, nice.
I love this record, and I pretty much only like their first two because the proggier side of this band just really wasn't my thing. I had the Sham Mirrors around the time it came out, and I thought that was cool. I think it's called the Sham Mirrors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the one that I really, really love, and I like that it kind of has like the early Borknegar sound, but a little bit of kind of emperorness. And I know that some of the members of Ulver are in it, and I know Hellhammer drums on it. This pressing is really sick. It's got the Northern Lights on the cover, which obviously is like a thing that I'm gonna like because I'm obsessed with the Northern Lights. It has a printed inner sleeve, so the inside of it is printed, and then it comes with a poster and a little mini booklet, and then it has like cool looking vinyl. Nice. This pressing's really awesome. I just love this record. I love the feeling of it. Mm-hmm. It's like the kind of first two Borknegar records, but a little bit more aggressive, and it's really symphonic. It's just a great record. And I don't really follow them much after this album, but I love it. It's all
consistently good. It's all good. I mean, even Arcturian was good.
They've never had a lack of incredible talented people. Yeah. And they've always had great vocalists, but it's just a lot of that more like avant-garde progressive stuff. Like some of it loses me. Like I love proggy stuff. I mean, my favorite band is Death, so I love prog, but sometimes it just goes a little bit too far. But this record, I feel like this record is just amazing. The vocals on it are incredible. All the performances on it are great. It's just an awesome album in general. I mean, it's in the one before it. I think it's like pink.
It's called Constellation.
Yep.
The mini
I've got that one. I've got that one too, and it's pretty good. I like it, but this one I love this record. I mean, it's awesome, and it's a good driving album too. Like if you're driving somewhere, it takes a while to get there. It's a good record to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's pretty interesting that band. I'm sorry, Alan, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I agree. It's it's a very easy album to listen to. You know,
Oh.
it's harsh, but it's got, you know, a good melodic sense to it. Yeah, when that came out, I picked it up as a blind buy. It just looked interesting, and yeah, my girlfriend and I at the time we played that album to death when it came out because it's really cool. And yeah, I like their later, you know, proggy direction, but that's not an easy listen. That's not something you want to just, you know, throw on in the background. And
The second one's hard to
listen
get.
to. You really got to pay attention to get stuff out of that, which a lot of the times you're just not in the mood for.
I haven't heard the record in, God, 13 or 14 years, but the Shamiras, didn't it have an appearance by Isan from Emperor on it?
Yeah, he sings on a song on there.
I remember it was right after Emperor split and that record came out, and I remember like feeling really thrilled to get to hear Isan again.
Yeah.
You know, it was before he started doing his solo stuff. And I remember just being like sitting around in my friend's house. We were sitting in his apartment. And we were listening to that record. We were like, "Oh crap, it's Isan! Check it out!" You know, we were kind of like, "Ooh," you know. So it was cool to get to hear him again. You know,
it's kind of cool thing about Arcturus. It's kind of, that band is kind of known as being Sverd's band. Sverd's, Sverd, the keyboardist. It's essentially his band. So it's kind of cool to have a band whose leader is the keyboardist. So I mean, I guess that could be another reason why it was always directed in more of a proggy. They don't really sound like a lot of the Norwegian scene. I mean, there's elements of it in here. I mean, he surrounded himself with some musicians that were very prominent in the scene, but that band always kind of tread its own path, which is very cool, I thought.
yeah, for sure, it's really good.
I guess that means Alan's next.
All right. Let's see. Marty, you were talking Polish scene a little bit earlier. So sometime around, must have been late 96 or early 97, I did a tape trade with somebody in Poland. And it was one of these things where we were just taking like, you know, a couple of 90-minute cassette tapes and cramming songs by different bands onto them for one another. And it took forever, of course, for the, you know, package to get to me. I was living in Texas at the time, and when the, you know, it was just like in like a typical bubble, you know, mailer, you'd put a couple of cassettes in. And I remember it because when the thing got there, it literally looked like someone had just taken a box opener and split the entire thing. And somewhere along the way, I guess someone in the postal service had just taken a couple of rubber bands, and the whole package was just held together with like 2 thick rubber bands. I have no idea to this day how those cassettes didn't fall out of this package. I mean, it was just gutted from end to end. We're not talking like a tiny little tear. There was nothing physically holding this packaging in one cohesive piece anymore. But it had a lot of cool songs by a lot of Polish bands I had never heard of before. And so I ended up tracking some of them down, getting a few albums here and there. The one I liked the most out of the batch was this one, which again, I don't have a physical copy of anymore. But it was a band called Christ Agony. And this is their third one, which was Moonlight. Their albums had like were usually numbered like Act 2, Act 3. And so Moonlight was Act 3 in their catalog. I think they hung around for a long time. I think it sort of became more or less a one-man project eventually. But they had a pretty unique sound. They had a pretty clean production. They didn't really go for any of the lo-fi kind of stuff. They tended to write very long songs, like 8, 9, 11 minutes most of the time, which, you know, not unheard of, but you know, a little long by the time. This one came out in 96. And the song structures are often a little on the sort of simple and repetitive side, but they use it to really good effect. They create a lot of, you know, sort of a repetitive trance-like atmosphere. And with the longer song run times, it gives them time to really let that develop so that you can really kind of, you know, get into this, you know, repeating rhythm that they're using. So yeah, it was just always, again, it was a very, you know, sort of different sound for a band. Never really heard anybody else try that. I've heard just 1 or 2 others in their catalog. they're always a little hard to track down and find, but they're not very expensive. I've looked recently because I thought about picking this one back up, and I was afraid it was going to be one of those deals where, the CDs now are minimum of $50 or something, but it's really not that bad, and it's had, I guess, at least one reissue. So, yeah, it was one of the cooler ones that came out of that crazy tape trade with some guy in Poland. So, if you're in Poland and you're watching this and you sent a couple of cassette tapes to some guy in Texas in the mid-90s, thanks. The package did arrive, just barely.
Right on. Okay, I guess I'm up next.
You're up next, Mr. Marty.
Before I start getting into the more well-known areas, I'm going to stick with the outskirts and go with Latvia Sky Forger.
Cool.
Pius Solus.
Yep.
This album fucking rules. This and their demo, Semigul's War Chant. Holy shit. They're afforded a freedom being in the outskirts of the big scenes to have their own sound. And in a lot of ways, like Old Wayne's, this is just unrelenting. The vocals are just harsh and just really nasty sounding and unique sounding and different screaming style. I always attribute it to people's accents or their dialect. I don't know what it is, but some countries just have a nastier snarl to me for some reason. But this guy, I don't know who the hell was singing on this. He changed his vocal style drastically after this, and it continued to get less harsh as they went on, and they got a lot more folk as they went on. There was a lot of folk elements in this, but the core of it, the black metal core.
That's what I heard was that era.
What era? This era?
No, the folkier side.
Oh, if you have not heard this album, it's great. It is really a good album. Their demo is really good too. But yeah, Sky Forger is completely unique to about anything I'm going to show tonight. It's just unrelenting, great black metal with some folk flourishes here and there, but this album is great. The vocals, for me, really harsh, unique sounding. I kind of wish they stayed with it, but they didn't. And that might be part. I mean, they were on Metal Blade for a minute, so I mean, they got some notoriety as they went on. They're still together, I believe. It says they're active. The last thing they put out was in 2015. So good stuff. Austin.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I heard that one, but it was a cool one.
It's a good one.
So the next record that I picked is the Armageddon, Only True Believers. This record is like each of this band's full lengths are totally different. Like, the first
my favorite of the three, actually.
Actually, my favorite of the three is the one after On Spiritism, and they have now that's really good too. But the first one was kind of like, what is it, a Final War Approaching or something like that?
Yep, that's the first one.
Yeah, I've got an old pressing of that, and then the Norvis reissue, and that record is, it's kind of Dark Throne kind of sound, like Transylvanian Hunger kind of deal, and it's really good. But this record has got this like super pissed, like fist in the face, like anger to it. It's very aggressive. It's almost is kind of punk to me at times. Like it's very crusty and pissed off. I mean, it's just a great record, and it's not something that I listen to a lot because I don't really listen to a whole lot of like. I tend to listen to things that are a little bit more atmospheric and majestic, But this record is just a good, angry, fist in the face of an album, and it's pretty sick. If you haven't heard it, it's recently been repressed. This is an older pressing of it. The newer pressings are really nice, cool colored vinyl. I've got one as well that I got from Norvis. And yeah, I think this is a record that, it came out, I think in 2000 or something, or maybe 2001. Yeah, 2002 it says on the back. And it's it would have fit in perfect in the 90s. They did a great job on it. It's a great record. It's angry, aggressive, raw black metal. I mean, good record, killer record.
Yep, good stuff. Alan.
Okay, this is one I can't remember if this got reviewed somewhere and I picked it up, or if maybe somebody sent it to me and I liked it and I tracked it down. It is a Norwegian band called Ragnarok, and this is their third album, Diabolical Age, which came out right at the beginning of 2000. In a sense, there's nothing that's incredibly unique about this one, but I always liked it a lot because I thought they did an incredibly good job of balancing the sort of infernal side of black metal, but also keeping just enough melodic strands in it that the songs could actually really stick with you. They had just a little bit of catchiness where you could really easily pick them up and distinguish them. They didn't sound alike. But very sinister sound to it. Nice production job on it. The band is still around. They released an album, I think, in 2019. They were a weird band to find stuff by because I could always find the odd numbered albums in their catalog, and I could never find the even numbered ones. I don't know why, but because I had their debut Natford, which was also pretty good. It was a little more rough around the edges. They were still finding their sound, but I still liked it. Never saw their second album. I don't think I've ever seen it in my life. Then this one came out and was able to get through the local record store at the time. Great album. The follow-up, I was kind of waiting for the follow-up to come out. Heard it came out. Have never seen a copy of it in my life. But then their fifth album showed up everywhere. And the fifth one was called Black Door Miracle, which it was a little weird because I know it was one of the. It has a picture. The front cover is very odd. It's got a naked woman shown from the back on it, and it's also got one of the band members just holding a gun in kind of a weird collage picture. And so it's just, it's actually, when you stop and think about it, it's a very weird image for a black metal album cover. Like the one Austin showed earlier, you tend to think of, guys having all this, very weird, medieval, crude-looking weaponry. And so having this, color picture of a dude wearing face paint, pointing a 9mm at someone was just kind of very odd. And that album, just didn't click as well either. I thought they kind of lost their touch just a little bit by that point. But I always really like this one. It's one I will go back to every now and then and give it a couple of spins. And the songs, still stick really well. So yeah, it's definitely on the more intense side, but it's got the hooks in there to definitely make those songs stick with you long term. So a cool one that just doesn't get mentioned much.
That's an awesome record. I got that when I was in my 20s, early 20s, kind of more around the time that it came out. And the first three were really good. I saw the Black Door Miracle, and then the artwork really turned me off. I was just I don't care.
Yeah, it's a weird looking cover.
It's just kind of, that all that kind of bordering black metal misogyny bullshit just kind of gets annoying to me. But I bought that record at Ear Ecstasy in Louisville when I lived in Louisville, and I thought that record was good. I mean, it was a great record. It was cool, and the one before it is also good. Yeah, I mean, they're not a bad band at all. I mean, musically, but then after that, they kind of, I didn't check out the fourth record because I just thought the cover art was stupid.
Isn't their claim to fame having hosts from Tolka in the band singing?
I don't know.
Isn't he on that? Is he on that album?
Let me check real quick. I'm not sure. So, Diabolical Age lineup on vocals. We got Thine.
He might have been on Black Door Miracle, and he was on some later albums of theirs, I think.
Okay. I can double check here if I can get all the right buttons clicked. Oops, not that one. Yeah, still getting used to this new rig. Vocals. Host. Yeah, around, I think 2002 to 2007, which would have been around Black Door Miracle time.
So you might not be on that one.
All right. Sorry about that.
It's all right. All right.
All right. over to
This
you,
next
Marty.
band, they started in 95. They didn't put out a full length until 2002, so I'm kind of skating on the edge of where I'm supposed to be, but this is a good band that no one really talks about much anymore. If I can get this thing working correctly, there we go. Francis Nehema.
Oh man,
They have 3 albums:
dude.
Light of a Dead Star, Shadows from the Past, and Requiem Tenebra.
I don't know
This is pretty much. Oh, he's got the box set right on. Man, that's a killer box set.
Crucial.
This is great, old school, traditional, no frills, well written, black metal. I mean, they don't stray far from the path when it comes to all the proper black metal aesthetics, but there is just an attitude and feel about this stuff that's perfect. Austin's probably a little better to show off this because he's got the big box there. But I've always liked this band, and it's like one of those deals. They should have been a lot bigger. Maybe if they were in Norway, they would have been bigger, but they weren't. They were French. So this stuff came out early on Oak and Shield. I have no idea who put out that box set, Austin.
I think it's Those Opposed. It's a really good box set. It's
That's a Greek label. Yeah.
every single one of these records is amazing.
They are. I mean, I think my favorite's the
So
first
good.
one, but it's great shit.
It's
Old school.
great.
Yep.
I mean, I love all of it. I can't believe I didn't think of it too, man. Because it rips. I mean, it's just so pissed and so just nasty sounding. Ah, dude, killer.
Again, they're not reinventing the wheel, but they've shown that what you can do with common aesthetics, it doesn't matter as long as you're a good songwriter and you've got the right sound behind it.
So good.
Justin's taking notes. There you go. Nehema.
Yeah, I got to check that one out too. I do not know that band.
I'm sure that box set is long gone and expensive.
No, there's still copies floating around.
Really?
I got mine, God, like 10 years ago or something. But I've been seeing copies. There was a distro in Minnesota that had copies. I had to buy mine from Europe, and the shipping was murder.
Yeah.
But there was distro copies floating around in the US, and it is goddamn. I mean, what an awesome band.
Great band.
The sound is so like cold and just pissed, and there's all this atmosphere to it, but it's not like foo-foo keyboards. It's not like frilly sleeves, like,
No top hats.
Yeah, no top hats. No. It rips. It's super good. And
it's good because this guy isn't hugging a cross. He's like, fuck that cross.
Yes,
I got my back turned on it. I'm not even looking at that cross. That cross is dead to
bonus.
me. Yep. All right, Austin, you're up again.
All right, so this is speaking of crosses. This is the album that I'm gonna get shit talked in the comments about.
I'll get mine loaded up after you're done. We'll hit them with the 1-2
I will
punch.
preemptively tell you all that I don't care, and second of all, like, because I chose this album, don't think that it's not indicative of my personal values in any way. But if this band wasn't a Christian band, everybody would be listening to it. And this is Antestor from Norway's Kongsblå. And it was originally released by Cacophonous.
That was they put out some cool shit.
It was originally released by Cacophonous, and it was called The Return of the Black Death. And when they put it out, they didn't know that all the lyrics were about Jesus.
So much for doing your homework.
But, that's the thing that's messed up. Like, if these lyrics weren't, like, Jesus music, we'd all be listening to this shit. All of us. Because it's so good. It's, like, folky, kind of early Satyricon sound. It's super good. And Hellhammer ended up playing on one of their albums at a later date.
Yeah, the one in Necrolord cover. It looks like a dissection cover.
There's two. There's an EP, the Top to Leave, and the Forsaken was the full length. And it's super good. I mean, but if you can tune out the fact that the lyrics are like total, Christian baloney. I don't want to
personal accidental Jesus
for their religious beliefs. I don't. I mean, my mom's a Christian, and I'm not, but obviously not. My criticisms of Christianity have been pretty blunt, and I stand by them. I have it on good authority that Antestor is in Jesus' personal vinyl collection. What does he call you at home? Anyway, this record. So this is a repress that was just done with the original album title, Kongsblå. And what's funny about it is it has the Flight of the Infant King on the cover, which is an old painting of when the Birkebeinen smuggled Håkon Håkonsson across the Swedish border to keep him from being murdered, and in an attempt to supplant
by Jesus.
No, to keep him to attempt to supplant the Håkonsson line. And it's funny because in the tap room at Hammerheart, we have a copy of this painting because our family has all these Håkonssons in it. And my son's name is Håkon. But the Swedish version, Håkon, not Håkon. So it's interesting that this was the cover art that they chose, was this Flight of the Infant King, which I don't think that has anything to do with Jesus at all. But this record is, if you can get past the religious stuff in it, if you can just tune that out. I mean, and I can tune out satanic stuff because I don't care and I don't believe in any of that stuff.
Well, they're from the same thing. I mean, if you're going to sing about Satan, it's just as absurd as singing about Jesus, as far as I'm fucking concerned. So
they're skiing for Christ, he says. Yeah, I think they're skiing from being murdered by
kidnappings for Jesus.
Joke aside, if you can get past the fact that this record is proselytizing and just listen to the music, it's really, really good. There are tons of my friends and tons of people that I know that listen to all kinds of sketchy bands, and they can look past people's dumbass politics, but they can't look past a guy who's screaming at you in Norwegian about Jesus. But yeah, this record is fantastic. It's really, really good. Give it a shot. Don't take the message to heart, kids. Watch out for the dangers of Christianity. I really hope my mom's not watching this. That would be.
Come on.
But
Anyway.
Mom, all the other Christian kids are listening to it. I want a copy too. That's got to be kind of a weird conflict. It's like, I guess you can play it, maybe. How do you convince your parents that, that's the one black metal album that's yet not being all about Satan, because it's still sung in Norwegian and your parents don't know? Interesting.
Right.
I wonder if they chose that cover painting because they felt maybe there was some kind of parallel to the whole story of Jesus' birth and being persecuted by King.
Yeah,
whichever king kind of wanted to hunt him down as an infant.
King's blood.
Maybe.
So perhaps that's a parallel. I don't know. It's still a really good record, and the original cover art that was released on Cacophonous when it was called Return of the Black Death, the cover art was super corny.
Is that a Cacophonous pressing?
No, this is from the pressing. It doesn't say on the back, but I think the name of the label is, I don't know. I'm going to say this with a straight face. I think it's called Norwegian Mission.
There you go.
So yeah, imagine me ordering that record, being like, "Oh God!" Like, I saw it, and I was like, "I like that record a lot."
Did it come with a bunch of other pamphlets?
Norwegian Mission or Nordic Mission? I think it's Nordic Mission. Just like oofda, like
It's on your credit
Nordic
card
Mission.
record
Here we
somewhere,
go.
Austin.
oh, Patrick just told me, yeah, Nordic Mission. Sorry, Patrick.
All right, Alan.
All right. Go with Norwegian one next. Always liked this band's early stuff. This is another one. I think they lost the plot an album or two after this. And I think they kind of just missed the crest of making the cut for one of the first wave of 90's black metal and getting their name out there. But it's Gehenna and their second spell album, Seen Through the Veils of Darkness. They had this is another band that kind of numbered their albums a little bit. So they had first spell, second spell. They quit doing it after a while. I guess they realized it wasn't really getting them anywhere. But the Gehenna ones have this very raw tone to the music. It's very almost fuzzy sounding, which again makes it very, very different from what the more thin production sounds that is kind of the stereotypical early black metal production style. But despite having this very, very raw tone to it, it's also got very catchy melodies worked into a lot of the songs. They'll have very quick time changes where they'll go into like this just super catchy part for a little bit, so that everything sticks with you long after you listen to it. I always kind of liked their style on these first couple of spells that they created. This was another one that was, their stuff was a little pain to find in a lot of places here in the States when it was coming out. I remember specifically I found this when I moved to North Carolina in School Kids Records in Raleigh. And I had just moved. I had been out of work for 8 or 9 months before this. So, was really watching things. I hadn't gotten my first paycheck yet. And they had it in the record store. I was just like, oh man, do I cough up the $16.99 to buy that and really kind of take it easy on the lunches for another week or two until I paid? And it's like, yeah, fuck it. I've been wanting to hear that for a long time. So I bought the record and a loaf of bread, and I enjoyed my bread on bread sandwiches listening to Gehenna for a week or two until I got paid.
Like me in college. I was in college, I would do that.
That was me in high school.
On a loaf of bread so that I could buy records.
Yep, I remember in high school I would I would skip lunch, I'd get like one little like bag of chips or something, and save the rest of the lunch money and put it into the record buying account.
I used to pilfer my parents' vinyl collection. My parents had all these records because they didn't have a record player anymore, and I found them all in the attic. And they didn't want them, and they were like, "Hey, you can have them." So I would take them to the record store, and I'd trade them for like $1 a piece, just so that I could get one record. And I'd bring 15, 20 records down there just to get one record, one used record.
Yep.
At Last Chance Records in Memphis. And I remember like my parents didn't care. They were like, "Hey, you can take all those records, whatever. We don't have a record player anymore, and you do." Mm-hmm. And it was all this like Earth, Wind, and Fire and stuff. And I was like trading all that in just to get like one, His Hero Is Gone record or something, Mm-hmm. So yeah, same,
Yep. We've all been there, I think. Most of us.
Well, since I got Austin's back on this deal, we're gonna keep it in the Lord's house. And
testify, brother Marty, testify.
Right, if I go down, you go down too.
That's right. I don't care. If you wandered into a Christian bookstore back in the day when the Jesus Metal thing was trying to take off, they would have hype stickers on them that say, "If you like Metallica, you will like Mortification," or whatever. They try to pick a secular band and then pair it with the Christian alternative. If this had a hype sticker on it, it would say, "If you like Dark Throne, you will like Horde." And this is Helig Usvard, which is loosely translated to Holy Unblack in Norwegian, which is funny because this band is Jason Sherlock from Mortification. He was a drummer for a while for them, and on their better albums, their debut and Scrolls of the Megaloth. He was on Post Monetary Affliction as well. But Jason Sherlock is kind of a badass. He's a great drummer. He's a great songwriter. He also does a doom band. He did a doom band called Paramecium. Exhumed of Earth is a fucking great album. Very My Dying Bride reminiscent, early My Dying Bride reminiscent. But on this album, he is known as Anonymous, which is, close to Anonymous, I guess. And I guess this pissed off a lot of Norwegians back in the day. I don't know. That's what I've heard. But to be completely honest, this album fucking rules. It crushes. It is well written, black metal. It's well recorded, but they try to make it sound grim and underproduced, but everything cuts. The riffs are super fucking catchy and dark. I guess the thing is the songs. Invert the Inverted Cross.
Oh,
wait!
Crush the bloodied horns of the goat. Weak, feeble, and dying Antichrist. Silence the blasphemous chanting. Release and clothe the virgin sacrifice.
dude,
Good one.
Yeah.
It's good. It's
just like, it's just like getting a bucket of cold water dumped on you.
It's like the equivalent of don't drink and stay in school, kids.
If you're gonna sit, I'm sorry, if you're gonna sit and listen to Satan shit all the time, and you can't take a little Jesus with your Satan, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. So but anyway, boil it down. This is a killer fucking album, and I would have liked to hear another one of them. I would have liked to hear a follow up to this. They even played a show in Norway. They booked a show in Norway. All wore cloaks. Sherlock played drums and sang the whole thing. It was fucking cool. It's online if you want to check it out. It's totally cool, man. Good shit. Good black metal. Or I'm sorry.
Song titles sound like Judas Iscariot song titles, but like done by a Christian youth group pastor.
Right.
I guess
shit.
So now changing gears completely, let's go with this Arcanum record, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce the title. It's
Crosstalker.
Crosstalker. Yeah. So I love this record. The one after it, Kampen, is really, really good. The first one is obviously really great. I mean, I like pretty much, Marty's got Kampen there. I like pretty much most of their stuff. I mean, everything except for the most recent one.
Their first three are classic, though.
Yeah, but there was Beck and I always joke about, there's the one with the werewolf on it.
Yeah, the first one, Friend Martyr.
Oh, that one's great too. The one that has the werewolf on it.
Oh.
The title is the Thurisos.
Thurisos
rune. And we always joke that it's called. We always crack jokes about it, but his stuff's really cool. It's really interesting. And this pressing's kind of weird. It's like it's a double picture disc inside of a gatefold.
Cool.
So it's pretty interesting. I hate picture discs, but because they sound like trash. But this pressing is just really nice. It's really thick, gatefold, and the aesthetic of it. The picture discs are really cool. It's got inserts, like a double insert on it, and it's just a cool looking record. I like this record a lot. It's good, and I love how his vocals kind of have this keening kind of thing, like cattle calling, which I know that some like Galder and Santa is pretty similar. I mean, it's just a great record. He also played drums, I think.
Grotesque.
Grotesque, which is the pre At the Gates band.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this one is definitely the favorite for me. I love this record. I love the aesthetic of it. I love the sound. I love that. Oh, Shamate's stepmom did vocals.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
True. Yeah, that's true.
That's kind of cool.
It is.
Black metal can be a family thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a cool. This is a great record. I mean, if you haven't heard it, you should listen to it. I mean, I have most of this band's discography. I think I'm only missing like 2 records. They just recently re-released his first draft recording of his demo, and somebody put it out on vinyl, and I bought it on Bandcamp. And it's great. It's awesome. It's super raw. It sounds awesome. It's great. I mean, it's just a killer record. So, check it out if you haven't.
His 2013 album Fenris Kinder is really, really good too. Really raw.
I have that one. I wasn't nuts about that one.
I like it.
It was cool. It was okay. I liked the ones before it. There's the one with the Jeff Whitehead art on it that was pretty sick. I mean, generally, I like most of his stuff. That last one was okay. I mean, it's different. It's a different sound. Like this has got some serious like magic to it.
It does. Yeah, there's a new full length out in 2017. I didn't even know. I missed it. Den Forstfoden. Fordena? I don't know. Den.
Oh no, that's the demo reissue.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I don't know what the last thing
wasn't the demo named Trulin?
Yeah, Trulin was the first demo, but then there was Den first something or other. The first something. I don't know what the last word you said.
Trulin was the 4th demo.
But there's an earlier recording of Trulin that was just reissued. He rejected the demo. He didn't like it, and then it just came out. I've got it up there. I can dig it out if you want, but it doesn't really matter that much. Oh, God.
Good one, Justin. That's Justin, by the way.
Oh, hey, buddy.
All right, Alan, you're up. Good one.
Okay.
Arcanum was great.
I'm gonna run to the toilet real quick.
Mhm.
I'll be right back. Just keep going. I'm listening.
It's all good. This one for me is another one that's got a little magic about it, and I very rarely ever hear the band get many props. This is the Swedish
That's a good album.
Nagelfar.
Yeah,
or the Vitra. Incredibly good album. It came out in 95, so in a way, again, it's kind of getting past those peak first few years of the 90s. The band is still around. They've done a lot of albums, and I feel like they very quickly kind of lost their spark. The second album had 2 or 3 good songs on it, but the rest were just kind of ran together. The third album, I don't know if it even had 1 or 2 good songs on it, but this one's a gem.
It is.
I've always loved this album. It is, has very, in some ways, it's a very typical Swedish black metal album from the period. But it doesn't sound like a dissection clone. That would not be a fair word to describe it at all.
Nope.
It really focuses on velocity. It's a very speedy album, but the songs are very well written. I've always felt, and it's probably a stretch, but I've always felt like this album, these guys probably were fans of some of the German speed metal bands.
Oh, fucking sick album.
Come out in the 10 years before this, because it just kind of has that real strong sense of songwriting, of riffing, of melody about the songs that you don't hear in a lot of black metal albums. And so I feel like, sure, they were obviously taking cues from, the rise of, black metal popularity, but there's some just little, they had to have an appreciation for things like old Gravedigger records or, early Halloween records or something. You just hear, echoes of that in the way they've built those songs on this album. I first heard the band, they got featured on one of those Blackened compilations that were popular in the mid-90s. I think it was volume 2.
Yeah, those are
that
good
they were on
comps.
with Enslaved the Astral Fortress, which is just an amazing song. As soon as I didn't even get through that first song, I was already thinking, I want to find this album because this just kicks ass.
It's super good.
It really, really is. Yeah.
Does that CD pressing have the Iron Maiden cover, The Evil That Men Do, on it?
Nope. I've seen that pressing, but no, this is, I think, is the earlier.
That was the pressing that I've got.
Yeah, it's the original pressing.
The cover, the Evil That Men Do cover that they did on that is awesome.
Cool. I don't think I've heard the cover, but yeah, I tracked this down back in the day, and this is one. Yeah, is again, I've had to thin out CDs over time, and the black metal shelf got hit pretty hard around 2015 for culling things out, but this one will always be on the shelf. I've always loved this one.
If I had one complaint about that album, it would be I like Jen's vocals, but he doesn't have a lot of dynamics. It's like kind of like his screaming is balls to the wall. It's not a bad thing. It's just it works really well with the music on that album. But as it went on, it got a little like the next album. It just wasn't as good to me. But I mean, that'd be my only complaint. But I like it. It's a really good album. Good stuff.
That was really the only one of their records that stuck with me. And
yeah,
God, I got that record when I was in my early 20s, and it man, I loved it. Like I thought it was so good. Like it's just it's super melodic, and there's all these harmonies on it, and it's super aggressive, and it almost it kind of borders that like melodic death, like No Fashion kind of thing, but it still sits within the black metal sphere, and it's just a great record. It's super good, and especially that cover at the end I thought was really. And I usually hate it when people tack on bonus tracks because I like to hear the album as it was intended. Yeah, but still, that cover, The Evil That Men Do, like done, this kind of black metal style, is super awesome, and it made sense that Maiden was such a huge influence on those dudes because there's so many harmonies. There's all these third harmonies. Yeah, somebody just said like Vinterland.
Yeah.
Totally. Straight up. And man, I wish they'd reissue that album on vinyl. Good.
I just got a Russian bootleg of it for $5.
Yeah,
I gave an original pressing to Tanner. Actually.
I want it on wax.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not gonna happen. So
All right. I guess I'm up next.
Yep.
This
I'll
is
be right back, Marty.
Right on.
But y'all go ahead.
This is a early second wave band that came out with a lot of the classics, and people just don't talk about them much, which is criminal because it's one of my favorite Norwegian black metal bands, and it's Hades. The demo. This is the demo. Alone walking. They put weird Norwegian stuff in the word to make you want to say it funny. Alone walking. Again shall be, which. This album is amazing. Absolute classic.
Totally.
Dawn of the Dying Sun, which is a damn close second.
That's the one that I like. It's got Bathory vibes on it.
Total Bathory vibes, and I love the distorted bass on it. But
I intentionally left that out of my...
Because I was going to talk about it.
I knew you were going to talk about it.
These guys continued on. They had to change their name to Hades Almighty because the Jersey thrash band Hades sued them, I think, or told them to cease and desist. But this shit is classic Norwegian black metal. This is the first I heard, and it is so good. These guys started in 93. This album came out in 94. So I mean, they're right up there with the first wave of the second wave, Norwegian wave, essentially, and mid-paced, so much melody, so Norwegian sounding. A lot of those riffs that are all 6 strings strummed at once. I mean, this is completely traditional Norwegian black metal. And if you don't have these 3 releases, they've put out the one after this. This was Millennium Nocturne, which is also good. And then the Pulse of Decay, which is getting a little strange, but it's still okay. And they're back together. They did a split with Druk, I believe, and they were rumored to be coming back. But the magic from these early releases is gone. But it's still they're a good band. But definitely, again, should be on your list. The Dawn of a Dying Sun. This should definitely be on your list. These are classic fucking Norwegian black metal albums. No one talks about them other than a few people.
They're heavy. I feel
heavy.
like the production wise, they're heavier records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're into the crime shit, Jorn from this band was buddying around with Varg and burning shit down with him. Went to jail for a while. I don't know if that matters to you or not, but good shit. Definitely check that stuff out. It is classic
Killer.
Norwegian black metal.
Killer, man.
Alan.
So I'm
Austin's next.
the
Sorry.
record that I'm picking. The record that I picked for this, I kind of like. So this band, I generally don't like this band because it's just not my thing, stylistically.
They're not ancestry enough for you.
I knew it. I knew I was going to pay for it.
I'm kidding. I don't care.
I knew I was. But it's the Behemoth album, Grum.
Oh yeah.
So this band, you know, whatever they turned into, it's not my thing. I know a lot of people love it. They're really mainstream, but this record, they totally sounded like an Emperor clone on it to me, like a Nightside Eclipse era Emperor clone. And it's super atmospheric. It's mean. I mean, I remember hearing this record and being like, you know, because I had never heard Behemoth until they got popular, like with their kind of like Black and Death sound, and you know, I you know, it was just not my thing. It was when Nile got really huge, and then they were all around. Everybody was getting into them, and I had like one or two of their records that I bought out of recommendation, and it just didn't stick with me. But then a couple of years later, I went back, and people told me, hey, you know, they used to be a black metal band back in the day. And so I checked it out. This was probably early 2000s. And I went back and I checked this out, and I was like, man, that rips. It's super atmospheric. It's, you know, and I think that most people that listen to Behemoth that are going to like the Vans Warped Tour or whatever, not the Vans Warped Tour. What's that other thing that's like that? That was one of those big festivals. When they came through Louisville, they played at like an old tuberculosis hospital, and Nurgle ripped up a Bible. I can't remember. Yeah. Oh my God.
No.
And it was, you know, like they were huge at the time, but I think that most people probably didn't look back at this, and this totally sounds like that old 90s black metal. It's good. I mean, there's not really much else to say about it. It's good. It's a good record, but skipping ahead, I want to go ahead and do a 2-for-1 thing, because you talking about Hades made me think about heavy production. So I snagged a record out because I wanted to piggyback so that we don't talk about Behemoth. Another heavier side of black metal that's arguably death metal, but has a black metal vibe is Eternus.
Oh, you bastard.
And this is one of my favorite.
This is one of my favorite Norwegian albums as well.
Yeah.
This album, I listen to this record so much.
It's like the Norwegian bolt thrower.
Yeah, but it's got these total like black metal vibes. It's dark and mysterious.
Such a good album. Oh my God.
And it's got kind of like Hades. It's got this deep, heavy production. Somebody asked, was it the Decibel Tour? It was not. It was before that. It was some other thing. It was a long time ago. It was at least 12, 13 years ago. But back to more important things. This record, criminally overlooked.
Yeah.
I know.
Criminally overlooked.
People often talk about Beyond the Wandering, or the one after it.
And So the Night Became.
So the Night Became.
Yeah, that one's good. It's okay.
Good.
But it's nothing compared to this. This record is like, God.
The riffs just flow out of the speakers. They embrace you. It's like, that sounds cheesy, but I mean, you just like you're swimming in this dense riff. They're just so good, so well written.
It's like if you took a black metal album and then you tuned it a step and a half or 2 steps down.
Yeah.
And it's so heavy and it's so sinister, and the vocals are so good. I mean, it's just incredible. Like, you know, folks watching, if you haven't bought this record, if you haven't listened to this, you need to get this, because it is
so What's your
I can't
preference?
express this enough that you need this. It's so good. It's so heavy. It's the riffs are great. The production's great. The artwork is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it's got this kind of like, it looks like northern Minnesota on the cover, except for it's not on fire.
Right.
I shouldn't be joking about that because I'm super bummed.
Yeah.
But I mean, hopefully everything's going to be okay at some point soon. But it is just phenomenal album.
It's great. And I got to say, I bought they got a new album coming out, but their last album was called Heathen. It's really good. They're trying to harken back to that early Eternus era. Because for a while their middle era, they were trying to be a lot of brutal death metal.
Yeah.
Now, like that Heathen album, I listened to it a lot. It was really, really, really good. It's kind of had that warm, flowing, progressive, riffs. And getting back to Behemoth for a second, this is my album of choice by them.
Yep.
The Storming Near the Baltic, and it is like a Polish adaptation of Emperor, basically.
Isn't that the one that came out before Grom?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got that one too.
Yeah, this is my favorite Behemoth album. But, all right, that puts Alan next. Man, that I even look at that Eternus album and I want to fucking listen to it. It's
It's that good.
Yeah.
It's that good.
Yeah. And Marty, no, the way you described it is perfect. The album flows extremely well. Yeah.
That intro with the piano is so sinister.
Yeah.
Yep.
The three-fer. We got the trifecta going on here.
Yeah. For anyone that's not familiar with the band, again, the follow-up is incredibly good. At one point,
really
I
good
had
too.
I think I had 3 or 4 different CD pressings of this because I kept finding them and I liked them. They were all slightly different, so I just kept buying copies of it. Even like the early EP and demos on Dark Sorcery and stuff.
I got the demo on vinyl. I don't know if it's real. It may be a bootleg.
I don't know,
but it also rips.
Yes, yeah, the stuff. All these early
Dark
tracks
Sorcery
by them.
EP rules too.
And you're right, Marty. After And So the Night Became, they really started losing that magical side and they were becoming a very generic death metal band, which was a real shame to see happen to them. So, but yeah, if they're going back to that original sound, I will definitely
check out Heathen. It's a great album. It's a great album. I was surprised how good it was.
I may have to give that a shot too, man.
I ended up buying it on CD because I'm like, holy shit, because they're trying to sound like And So the Night Became. It's good. It's not brutal death metal.
Although the intro for And So the Night Became was super over the top. But
it's like weird.
That's the times,
Mm-hmm.
But that first record is just God. That's so good.
Stuff. Let's see. All right, for my next one, let's go with.
I'll be right back.
Sure thing.
Boys room.
Let's see. Let's do another Swedish one from around '97. This band a lot of times gets referenced as Viking Metal, which is a term that's a little ambiguous to me a lot of times because it's one of those lyrical kind of genres. It's like anybody can sing about Vikings and you can just make the music sound how you want it to. It's kind of like Christian metal in a way. You can have Ancestor, you can have Mortification, you can have Stripe, and they're all lumped together by the lyrics. But regardless, this band, they sang about Vikings, but the music I thought was very much filtered through more of a black metal lens. It's Mythotin.
God, they're so good.
They are so cool. In the Sign of the Ravens.
Great record.
Awesome record. It's one I don't play enough. This is the kind of album I walk away from for years, and then I take it back out and play. I'm just like, why the hell haven't I been playing this? It's so good. A thing for a lot of the Viking type metal with me is, while it's very neat, it wears out its welcome very fast because a lot of bands just kind of they tread the same water over and over. But Mythotin was really good at avoiding that little pitfall.
That's a good album.
The songs are very speedy, super catchy, super melodic, but still have a very nice, raw, vicious edge to them at the same time. I think the velocity helped them a lot. A lot of bands that get into the Viking vein seem to slow it down to a little more of a mid-paced, and again, sometimes that makes them plod along a little too much for my personal taste. If other people like it, that's cool. But Mythotin did a good job with it. They put out 3 albums. This one you saw around a lot when it came out. And then with each subsequent album, they kind of got harder and harder to find. They weren't distributed as well in the US. I have seen they've got a box set.
What's the name of the album after that? It's like purple.
Gather. Let's see. The third one's Gather Around the Oaken Throne.
The Sign of the Apocalyptic Great. No, Sign of the
That was the one that I really liked. I know Tanner is really into that band.
Yeah,
but I discovered that band years ago, and it was just that was the one that I listened to all the time. And I don't have a vinyl copy of that. I don't know if they even exist.
I am not sure either. Let me see. The middle one has Ancient in the name, but I'm drawing a blank on the rest of it.
The Mythoton is awesome. I mean, that record rips.
Moonlit Gate, something beyond something. The Moonlit Gate.
No, that's
Lord Belial.
That's Lord Belial, which we'll get to that in a little bit. King of the Distant Forest is the second one.
Yeah. That's right.
Is that the one with the purplish cover?
That's the purple cover with like the big green, like overgrown structure on the cover. Yeah, that's a cool album too. Absolutely.
But, good pick. That's a killer album. I haven't listened to that in years, and it's so good. Like I remember, kind of around 2007, 2008, I was listening to that album all the time when I would go hiking. I would have my little speaker, then I would like hang it on my vest, and I'd go for hikes and listen to that album. I loved that album.
Yep. Yeah, I used to play it a ton when I worked. One of the labs I was working in Texas, I'd sit there, and crank it up. We had an old stereo system in the lab, and I would I had taken like a portable CD player and run it through an old amplifier, and would just play that album, sitting there with like a pneumatic drill cleaning dinosaur bones, and just jamming Mythoton. I'd have the professor across the hall would come over and yell at me every now and then to turn that shit down. Be like, "Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Okay, go away." But yeah, it's a real cool album. Marty, are you ready?
I'm ready. This band is by no means they're putting food on their plates this day and age. Okay, they're a popular band. I just wish they stuck in this lane. And Norway's Borknegar. This is their debut. I love this album, and I think the main reason is it's got Ivar, however you pronounce it, from Enslaved on it. There is just an enslaved vibe about this album, an early enslaved vibe. I don't know, man. It's just really great Norwegian black metal. Garm is just tearing it up vocally on here. I like his clean singing, but I really think as Borknegar progressed, they got a little bit more pretentious. I mean, I like some of it. But
Empiricism is fantastic. Like Asger Mikkelsen's drumming on that record is ungodly.
Oh yeah, and they're a super talented band, and I even like the Vortex. I prefer. When it comes to Garm, I prefer Vortex's clean singing. I love he's got a very quirky, unique style. I'd rather listen to the Archaic Course. I'm not a big Vintersorg fan. I know
I love Vintersorg.
I'm not a big fan of that stuff, but this album for me is perfect Borknegar. When this came out, I spun the ones and zeros off this disc, man.
Great
album. Over and over and over and over again. I mean, the cover perfectly depicts what this album sounds like. And
it's awesome.
I wish they would have stuck with this, but they didn't. They got a lot more arty and a lot more progressive as they went, and it just I could take it if I'm going to listen to this band. It's this or the Archaic Course. Basically, that's it for me. All right.
Well, you'll be happy to know what my next record is.
Wintersorg. Oh no, Borknegar, right on. So, got my back. See, that's all we do.
Kind of chiming in with you is that like. I love this band in general. I mean, my favorite era of this band is the like Empiricism and Epic, those two records, mostly because Asger Mikkelsen's drumming is like incredible. I mean, it's just super inventive drumming. Like it's awesome. And I like the vintage sort of stuff, like especially like Odin's Martinsson and like Tilfjell's, and like those records are great. And I think he's a great vocalist. And I like Otig, his, kind of folk metal band before that. It was basically like the Swedish version of Storm. And Storm was great, but Otig was even more in that direction. And I love that stuff. It's great. But there's something special about this album. There's just a special feeling about it.
Great album.
I mean, I have every single record this band's ever put out. I've been a fan of these guys since I was in my early 20s, and I love them. I love them. But this record, especially lately, I've been listening to this a lot. And this was the last record that Ivar was involved in. Mm-hmm. You know, after this was, I think, Quintessence. And Quintessence is the only Borknegar record from the older days that I'm not like wicked into.
There's 2 or 3 great songs on that album, but the whole album isn't great, you know.
Sure, no doubt. Like there's some jams on it, but Empiricism was the one that I'm like front to back. Like I know it's corny, but it's so good. But this record, I felt like there was just some awesome ideas on it, and it's still kind of raw. But yeah, so it's funny that the record that you had this is my next up, you know. I love it, man. Killer band. I mean, I like everything that they did for the most part, but there are some records that I like more than others, you know.
Yeah. They had a real good run of records, Austin, but you're right. There's something about that one in particular that I always go back to and want to hear it.
Dude, one time I was in the grocery store in Louisville. I was like just buying some grocery store beers at like midnight. And I was like walking around like I was grabbing beers, and this guy was stocking shelves, and he saw me, and I was wearing like, you know, metal shirt, like always. And he's like, took his headphones out, and he looked up, and he's like, man, do you ever listen to Borknegar? And I was like, yeah, a lot. And then he just starts singing Ocean's Rise, like just like Vortex. And he's just like singing it in the aisle. He's just like belting it out. And I'm standing there with this dude, like just being like, cool, this is not awkward at all. Like standing here with this dude stocking shelves in Kroger, and he's all like, you know. And I was like, good job, buddy, you sound just like him. And he's like, yeah, killer, stay metal. And I was like, yeah, see you, bud. You know. And that was like, that's my favorite Borknegar memory, was being serenaded. I met those guys at a festival. I went to Norway for my 35th birthday to see Emperor in Oslo. My wife was like, you know, I'd always want to see Emperor, and I never had the chance because when they were doing their reunion tours when I was in my early 20s, you know, I just didn't have the money to travel. And so for my 35th birthday, I got to go to Oslo. I got to go back to Oslo and revisit the town that I lived in, and like reconnect with people over there and all that. And it was great. And I was hanging out at the festival. And so I went with the festival with, you know, my old label as like a guest at the label who was doing like a conference thing there. And so I had to wear like this name tag that like had my name on it and said Panopticon and said Nordvis underneath it. And I was like, this is awkward. And so we were hanging out in the backstage area where all the bands are hanging out. And I'm like going to get a beer. And I look over, and like 3 members of Borknegar are sitting at the bar. And I'm just like,
did you go up to the table and say, remember you guys made that one album? That was awesome.
Well, I to quote Office Space, I celebrate the entire discography. And so I walked over and I talked to those guys. I like summoned the courage to go over there and talk to them. And they were the most humble dudes. And they were so nice. And like, I totally chickened out. When I went over to talk to them, I like talked in Norwegian until I couldn't anymore. And then I had to switch to English because my Norwegian's awful. And they humored me. They were so humble. And I met Jens, the guitar player. I guess he doesn't play with them anymore. And he's like, do you want to meet Vortex? And I'm like, no, you know, like, no, I don't think I can do it, you know? And so I just kind of chickened out, and I went outside to smoke, and those guys came out right after me, and I ended up meeting all of them, and they were just the nicest dudes. And the funny thing is that when I lived in Drammen, one day Beck and I went into the city, into Oslo, to get some stuff, like to get some groceries and shit that we couldn't get because, you know, we have a weird diet, you know, like us being essentially vegan. So we went in to grab some stuff. There was like an Asian market and all that kind of shit. And so I was walking down in the city center. Yeah, already met him at Kroger's.
Sorry, bro. Minnesota and Kroger's already met the
He
dude.
was singing to me at Kroger. and so I saw we were like walking in the city center, and this big old hill. And Beck and I were walking through there, and I see Jens with his like curly blonde hair walking past me. And this is before. And so like this is before I met him, you know. And as he's walking past me, it dawns on my brain. I'm like, oh shit, that's Jens from Borknegar. And so I have to sit there and debate, do I run my ass up this hill and catch up with him all out of breath, be like, hey, oh, you Jens from Borknegar, I just want to say hi, you know. And I didn't do it because I was like, this is gonna be super awkward. And so when I met him, I got to tell him the story about how I saw him in Oslo, and I didn't chase him up the hill because I didn't want to be a weird fanboy. And he laughed at it. He thought it was funny as hell. Those guys are super humble, cool as a cucumber, those dudes, and great musicians, great band. You know, I don't care what they do. I'll always be a fan. So, you know.
Awesome story. Very
Yeah,
cool.
sorry for going so long.
No,
That's awesome.
That's what we're here for, man.
Exactly.
Alan's up next.
Okay. So you've already kind of mentioned this one in passing a couple of minutes ago, and it was on my list. So let's go ahead and talk Lord Belial.
Okay.
Enter the Moonlight Gate. Another Swedish one. This one came out, I believe it's 97 on this one. Let me double check real quick. 97 release. This was another one I liked quite a bit. And again, it has some of the typical Swedish elements to it, but again, this is not a dissection clone. That would be a really poor definition of it, in my opinion. This album stood out for a few reasons. It's got the production is a little chaotic, but it works well. It's got like a very sort of, I've seen it described as like a wall of sound approach, where, you know, everything is kind of very loud and upfront, but it still works well. The songwriting has really nice touches to it. They were not afraid to start doing some little different things. They have some acoustic passages included. They have softer parts to some songs. They use a female vocalist on a couple of tracks, just sparingly, just a little bit here and there to add it kind of a little more of an ethereal touch. One of the tracks has a flute included in it, which at first blush may sound a little corny, but it works. They incorporate it very well. So, they had some very neat ideas, and it came together really nicely on this one. The album, I've heard it compared to a couple of times that I think is kind of apt. It's a little bit in the same vein as like Nemesis Divina era Satyricon. But, they hung around. They've made other albums before kind of fading out. But the other ones I've heard at least never really, clicked the way this one did.
That's the only one I've ever heard by them.
This one was really easy to find. I think it got distributed by Metal Blade in the States. So, it was a lot easier to track down. And this was another case where, when Unholy Crusade was getting ready to come out, it was just like, I want to check that out. And nobody was getting it in. And that obviously kind of puts a damper on your momentum when you do this one awesome album, it gets good distribution, and people want to hear the next one, and you can't find it anywhere. But I eventually did hear it, and it was kind of like, it was a longish, it felt like a very longish album. The songs felt a little interchangeable on that one. It just, it's almost like, the cool ideas they had on this album, they used them all up, and they forgot to put any of that on the next album. But just another really solid example of Swedish black metal that, again, like you mentioned before, Austin, this is one that it's got death metal underpinnings all the way through it. Absolutely. People, it was a band that had been around. They may have started out more as a death metal band and transitioned their sound. I don't know for sure. But I can see where people, would sometimes not be sure where to, put these bands. Is it blackened death metal? Is it deathish black metal? in the end, it doesn't matter. It's a really cool album, and I call it black. It still very much has, it's the aesthetic it's going for. It is going for a black metal aesthetic, not a death metal aesthetic, in my opinion. But yeah, if you never got around to checking these guys out, Enter the Moonlight Gate is almost universally hailed as the album you want to hear by Lord Belial.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that's a ripper of a record. I haven't listened to it in a long time.
No, me either. It's
been a long time since I had dusted it off. Well, obviously I don't even own it anymore, but yeah, I pulled up the digital copy I kept and just like, man, yeah, this is good. Probably shouldn't have got rid of that, but stuff had to go. I had to make some hard cuts. But yeah, it's a really good album. All right, Marty, what you got next?
This band should have been big. They should have been huge, but they had some contract problems, and it kind of, I think, derailed them a bit. But come far with their debut, Mellum Skogakleda Acer. I don't know. I'm not Norwegian. Don't know anything a damn bit about.
But show it to me again.
Mellum
between forest lands and hills. Also, it is hills Skogleda. I don't know if Patrick's still here. Mellum is between the forest valleys and hills or something like that.
Patrick's not still here. It's 5 or 6 in the morning in Norway right now. But this is their debut full length, and this is probably one of my favorite Kamfar albums. I kind of stopped after I got promos up through Hingang, which was 2008.
Dude, Hingang is awesome. That record.
Yeah, Kavas and Hemgang, I got promos for, and I liked them, but they just didn't have the same. It was kind of the same style, but I don't know. There's a magic about this. Really dense. There's a bit of a folk spirit in the riffs, not necessarily, they didn't really lay on the heavy folk influence, but it's just kind of the spirit of the riffs. I guess the Norwegian sound. It's very much, I can see why maybe other bands carried on further than these guys did, because really they were kind of a product of their surroundings and their scene, but it's just good stuff. It's good, solid black metal. It was after Fra Under Verdenen.
Fra Under Verden, from the underworld.
Yeah, they had a contract dispute, and it kind of derailed them for 7 or 8 years.
Ooh,
before they could start releasing albums again. So, there was a bit of a time loss there, and 8 years in a quickly exploding scene is a long fucking time. It's a long time.
This one, I had this in mind.
Yeah, I got a mini CD of that one.
It's such a ripper of an EP.
Why don't you jump right in here? You talk about it. Go for it. It's your turn anyway.
You already covered all the good stuff about it. I'm going to do something else.
Right on. Go for it.
So I'll do two things at once since I have so many records that I picked. I have a bajillion of them. But I'll get this one out of the way. There's not much to say. I saw somebody in the comments, somebody talked about Diabolical Masquerade.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
This is great. All the records are great. This one's my favorite. Raven Dusk in My Heart's a ripper of a record. It's fantastic. Moving on. I'm going to start doing 2 for 1 because I have so many and I don't want it to go too long.
I have a shit ton too. I mean, I don't know.
I know you try to keep this to 2 hours, but I feel
the Motorhead stream went for 5. So.
Oh, okay. So there's not a massive time limit.
There's no time limit. I mean, we don't want to go super long, but
this record.
Oh yeah, I was going to pull this and I didn't.
Dark Funeral. Dark Fortress, rather. Oops. Dark Fortress. This Tales from Eternal Dusk. The first 2 albums by this band are amazing. It's like if you took Dissection, like Storm of the Light's Bane, and if you mixed like Dimmu Borgir, Stormblast together, this is exactly that.
Yeah.
And it's this it's very nostalgic to me. Like this kind of mid-90s production. I mean, I love this record. It's so good, and it's super melodic, and it's spastic and aggressive. and it just rips. I mean, love this record. And I followed this band for a while. After they kind of changed their sound a little bit, and some of those records were cool, but the first couple records just had this awesome feeling. It was like it was very dissection-y, like early dissection, but I don't know, with a more symphonic edge to it. It had all the keys and all that, and this just rips. I mean, and while I'm in the D's, we'll go ahead and toss this up there.
Oh my god, I love that album.
Panopticon.
It's the best, their best album in my opinion.
This is the only one of their albums that I own, because it's the only one. I mean, the other records are cool, but this one is just so pissed.
The Satanic Art EP is pissed off in a different way, real aggressive and acidic, just burning. But that album is so Norwegian sounding and unique. I love it.
It's awesome, and I think this is a bootleg. I don't know if it's real.
What's a label?
Oh god, I can't read that. It's my eyeballs are terrible. They're trash.
Well, your glasses are apparently trash. Your eyeballs are bad, but your glasses are.
I told you I gotta get bifocals.
Oh shit, that's right.
It's so embarrassing. But Malicious Records.
No, that was the original. That's an original pressing. That's what this
Really?
is on. Malicious Records.
Holy crap! I've had
These are OG pressings.
I've had this for forever.
Yeah.
And
Check it out.
I figured it was a bootleg because I got
Malicious Records catalog. There it is.
Huh. Let me look inside and see if there's anything. There's no insert, no anything. That's why I assumed it was a bootleg. It has nothing inside of it. It's just. I mean, it could just be a copy. I mean, it's really cheap.
Dude, I mean, this is really cheap. The jackets are shitty. I mean, this is all. I got this off eBay for like $10.
I got this thing super cheap.
Yeah.
A really long time ago.
That's an OG press.
Oh, well, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yep. That's probably a couple $100 record.
What? Really?
Probably.
Wow.
If it's in good shape. Hey, Zoller, what's going on, man? Good to see you.
Hey, Craig.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry I did the 3-for-1 because I'm trying to rifle through my stuff quick.
Right on. Alan, you're up.
All right.
Well, when in doubt, go back to Sweden. Another one. I think this one might have gotten reviewed in Maniacs back in the day. I'm thinking that's where I first heard about it and then was able to track it down. This was some folks in the chat have mentioned they also have been through School Kids Records over in Raleigh. And I'm pretty sure this was another School Kids purchase for me once upon a time. It's the In Eternum Forever Blasphemy album. It's another one in very much in that Swedish style. Very vicious sound to it. Very harsh, strong death metal infrastructure built into it, but completely draped in sort of black metal aesthetics as well. Really straddles the line between the two. I can see where a lot of people would want to call this maybe just blackened death metal or something like that, and that's cool. But it's a really cool album. The band did a couple more. I heard one of the other ones, and it felt like it had lost its charm by then. But that may have just been on me. It may have been one of those cases where I just wasn't in the mood for that style when I heard it. But yeah, not a lot more to say about it. It's just, follows in that vein. Swedish black metal bands always had a very good sense of songwriting. They always had, just enough melody and, just enough hooks along the way to make the songs more memorable than bands and, from a lot of other areas sometimes did. So yeah, just another one. If you like, those bands like Sacramentum, Lord Belial, the kind of stuff we've been talking about from Sweden tonight, In Eternum's another good one to check out for sure.
Is it Necrolord art?
It looks like Necrolord art. It's definitely a Necrolord kind of layout, front and back.
Oh.
So I'll check and see, but yeah, I'm guessing it is.
He has such a recognizable style.
Yeah.
Years and years ago, I I've always kind of harbored this like kind of petty dream of getting a record cover done by him, and I got in contact with him and I wrote him and I was like, hey, how much is this going to be? And he's like, oh, check your band out. So he checked out Panopticon and he liked it. He was like, yeah, it's pretty sick, whatever. And then he got back to me with the price. And I was like, oh my God. Like Marty is not going to.
Yep, it's a Necrolord.
Yeah. But I had it in my mind. I had this idea of having him do this like kind of Appalachian scene in his style, like all in greens and stuff. And I thought it would be so sick. Mm-hmm. And he got back with me and it was like $5,000. And you don't even get to have the painting, and I was just like, oh,
ouch.
I'm not cool enough to have that. So, and Becca has always done the artwork and she does an amazing job. And so it's not that I didn't have artwork that I liked, because I love Beck's work. I mean, our artistic collaboration is together,
Mm-hmm.
But it was just this kind of like kid dream of getting a Necrolord album cover, album art felt like, really making it.
Time for Marty to sell a kidney.
and then finding out that it's $5,000, I was like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it'd be
do you get the piece with it?
No, you just get the rights. That's all.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, never mind. Yeah. I don't have.
I'm sure it was like, it'd be like, bands, thinking about like, oh, it'd be so cool to record, in Sunlight or Morrisound or something. And then they, one day find out it's like, oh, it's how much per hour?
Yeah, it's
Let's
like,
go back to my mom's basement and do it there.
Reality. And the truth of the matter is that his paintings are huge and so detailed. I mean, he's an incredible artist, and his understanding of color is so, phenomenal. I mean, he's just amazing. And I will literally buy records that have Necrolord art on them, even if I don't like the band that much. I'll just buy it because the artwork is so awesome. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just such an incredible artist. His paintings are just incredible.
Yeah, he really gave black metal a nice visual style that
totally.
He obviously had a lot of bands that did the black and white photocopy kind of look, but then you had his style early on too, of course, with Emperor and such, and
totally.
Yeah, it really added a lot to that.
And I mean, he's done just incredible stuff. I mean, like, have you seen the Thalkandra records that he did the art for?
Yeah,
those are ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, he did a couple of Insephirum records too, and the artwork is just.
Mm-hmm. He's also a musician. Was he in Grotesque? And was he? He was also in a band called Diabolique, another Gothenburg sounding melodic death metal band. Yep.
And got into that. But yeah, and you're right, Austin. It's very detailed, so you can. It really adds to then just getting lost in that sort of black metal with all with satanic trappings and whatnot. It also has a lot of fantasy and escapism in it, and that art just suits it perfectly. You can really just examine that art and find all these cool things that build this big image and story in your head.
My favorite painting that he's done actually is a newer record. It's the Blue Dust Nord record that he did.
The yellow one with the scene, the
forest scene in the valley.
Oh, so good.
Memoria Vestula 3 or whatever.
Let me grab it.
I've got it too, man. The artwork for that is absolutely amazing. I was just looking at it the other day. I pulled it out just to look at the artwork on it. I mean, I love that album. It's a great record. And I love Blue Dust Nord. I mean, they're a great band, but golly, the artwork on that is just ridiculous. Like, look at that.
Oop.
No, I'm still looking for it over here.
I've got the wax if you want me to pull up a bigger.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So sick. And with the spot UV, the vinyl has the spot UV on it.
Yeah, it does. It's on the CD too. See it?
Yeah. God, it's so sick.
That is really cool.
This is the last Blue Dust Nord I've bought too. I really like this. Very Norwegian feeling, I think.
All of the Memoria Vestusa or Vestula or whatever, I can never remember. All three of those records are absolutely amazing albums. I mean, they're just awesome. The second one in that series is my favorite, and I listened to that record. I mean, so much so that I bought a repress of it because I was worried I was going to wear out my original copy.
Yeah.
And the repress is super nice. Like they did like a really nice color vinyl, and it's you know, they resituated the vinyl master, so that it's not, you know, just one track per side, and it's got an etching on the fourth side, and it's just so nice, man. What a great record. I mean, that whole series of records is awesome.
Yeah.
Ass.
Well, since Austin did a couple, I should probably do a couple because I've got a bunch of stuff still sitting here. Is it my turn? I think so.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yep.
since we're on the subject of Necrolord, let's go with "Far Away from the Sun" by Sacramentum.
Oh yeah.
This originally came out on Adipicer from France. Why this band wasn't big is probably because of Dissection, because this album sounds like the twin brother to Storm of the Lightsbane in a lot of ways.
It's just as good.
Yeah.
It's just as good. There is
Just
nothing
as
on
good.
this album. This is a well-written, amazingly crafted, the harmonies, the melodies, the songwriting. It's all fucking here on this album. This album is amazing. And if you have not heard, they went on, I mean, this is a repress. This is actually the only vinyl pressing of this, came out on Century Media. There wasn't one early on, apparently. So what I've heard, I don't know if that's true or not. And after this, they put out The Coming of Chaos and Thy Black Destiny, which are still, those are good albums. And before this, the EP Finis Malorum is really good too. But this album is just a moment in time, perfect snapshot of the era it came out. This came out in 96. And it's, you know, basically, all intents and purposes, this is probably melodic death metal, but I think a lot of people classify it as black metal. I also kind of classify Dissection as melodic death metal as well, but I know that's not a popular opinion. But this is a perfect album, really good. Check it out if you have not heard it. Next up, on a lesser note, this is a Norwegian band. This is the only thing I own by them because this is the only thing that's really grabbed me by this band, and it's the Swordmaster Wrath of Time EP. Mini LP. This is Emil Nordveit, John Nordveit's brother's band.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Full Moon Productions press. This is Swedish, very Emperor influenced. The production on it isn't great. It's kind of a weird, wonky production, but the songs are really good, man. It's straight up in that black metal vein. They're trying to lean more towards the Norwegian feel, I think. But after this, I can't remember the name after it. The full length after it was kind of a little more melodic, Swedeth sounding to me. They kind of lost the spirit of the early stuff. But this was a good snapshot. We've talked about this a couple times. For Kunsten ma vi ivig vika.
Yeah, it's. I think it's like something like for art we must depart, or we must depart for art, or something like that.
This is a great album. This is the only thing they ever did. Let me double check that. I'm sure. This is a later Peaceful reissue.
Yeah, that's the same one that I have.
They have a demo out in 94 and the rehearsal 94, and then this album. That's it in 96. This is a band that would have been great to hear a follow-up to. Good, straightforward, plowing, fast, Norwegian black metal. Good shit.
Part of the magic of that record, though, is that it's one and done.
Yeah. Members.
I mean, it's incredible. That record is amazing.
They're band guys I've never heard of, from Tom Hagen, bands I can't pronounce, Dim Nagel. Yeah, a bunch of bands they went on to be in a bunch of bands I've never heard of, but great.
I think the name of the band Kvist means twig.
Really?
Yeah, I think it means twig. I'm almost positive of it. I mean, like I said, my Norwegian's crap. It's good enough to order beers at bars and things like that.
This is the last of my vinyl, so I'll stop here. But why this band was never bigger is probably because of Rotting Christ, and that would be Varathron. This is a reissue of His Majesty at the Swamp. I'm really late to the Greek scene. For some reason, back in the day when it was happening early on, I never connected with it. I was so focused on the Norwegian shit, that dense atmospheric melody, and the Greeks had a totally different, weird way of creating their melodic songs. And this is probably a drum machine. It says it's not, but it says Wolfen drums. There's no picture of them, so I'm going to assume it's a drum machine. You don't go through all this nonsense to not include your drummer's picture unless
Why
it's a
didn't
drum
they
machine.
just take a picture of the drum machine all splat?
Yeah, check out this sweet Alesis HR16 fucking diabolical machine. But this is really good. Atmospheric, really cool, unique, moving melodies. I wish I was into this shit more back in the day, because it's been kind of a pain in the ass squirreling back and trying to grab copies of this stuff now. But I don't know what it was back then, just other than it wasn't Norwegian or Scandinavian sounding. But, this Necrobissos, his vocals are just like unruly, deep. They're not the typical high-pitched screaming. There's more depth and meat in his vocals, which also kind of sets it apart from what was going on back then. When did this come out? 93? It was recorded in 93. So, this is the beginning of the second wave right here. But it's completely different sound than what was going on in Scandinavia. Completely different. Check it out. If you've never heard Varathron, they're great. Why they weren't bigger, I blame it on Rotting Christ. It's like these big labels, they wanted one band from each area, and Rotting Christ was the one that got the Century Media contract. Yep. All right. Who is next? That would be Austin.
I think I'm up. I'm gonna crank through 4 records really quick. They're all Norwegian. Somebody mentioned this in the comments, and I had to keep from grinning. But this Flirty, this Min Hinska Kalma. My time.
Vocals are a tough sell on that for me.
My time will come. My time shall come. This is super weird, avant-garde, strange black metal, outsider black metal. It's super weird. I didn't get into this band until 2 years ago. I found out about it by a friend at work, showed it to me, and I was like, what the hell is that? It's so strange. It's raw, but it's got all these weird vocals. I know it's a tough sell, but if you can kind of get
good. The music's good.
It's really unique. It's awesome, and this is really the only one of their records that I'm into, because they got weird after that, weirder. But this record is awesome. It's avant-garde, it's progressive, it's strange, but it's still raw, it's still nasty. This is a Peaceville reissue that just came out like a couple years ago, and it's super good. It's weird. It's outsider. If you're into like Vedboy and Zenda and like all that kind of stuff, Virus and all that kind of outsider black metal, this is your...
The vocals sound like a shrieking banshee off in the distance.
It's super strange and it's awesome. Speaking of vocals that sound like someone shrieking and freaking out.
Oh, I was going to pull that CD. Actually, it's a great album.
I love everything that this band did except for the Race of Cain record I wasn't into.
Yeah,
but,
that was good.
And there was one song that they did as Joyless that I liked. It had a toilet on the album cover. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. But this record is great. I love the like delayed vocals, this like cycling shrieks. You can kind of hear the influence that this band had on Agalock. I would be surprised if Agalock were not fans.
Really? See, I don't get that connection.
Driving at times. Some of the records were more blasty, but this one, man, I love this album. It's so good. I like all of this stuff, but this one, I picked this one because this is the one that Beck really loves.
That's a good album.
It's a great
That's my
album.
favorite, actually.
Next up, Helheim. This Jormungandr.
I picked that up actually when I was visiting you at Cheapos. I picked that up at Cheapos. On CD.
Great album.
It's a good album. That's their best, actually.
The vocals are totally ridiculous. Like, I hear the influence that this band had on bands like the German Nagelfar and Drawtran, who are amazing.
Oh yeah, German. They're a German band.
If you haven't heard Drawtran, that album Throne of the Depths is absolutely crushing.
Pretty complex too.
Absolutely. It's like Emperor meets Weakling. Like, it with dual vocals. But then also there's, if anybody's ever heard of Sturbend, the German depressive black metal band that has like the howling kind of vocals, like, you can see that this was a precursor to a lot of that. And this record absolutely rips. I have a bunch of their records after that. Some of them are good. Some of them are, not my thing, but they're
As they went, they got worse, in my opinion. Anyway.
I mean, that's so relative, like some people like it, some people don't. But that record, I think, is a very, very classic 90s black metal record. And then the last one that I picked, this record is really special to me.
This is your last album?
No, I got a whole shitload more.
Good. I was gonna say, because fuck, dude, I got a ton.
No, I have a stack. I'm rifling through stuff so that I don't make this go all night.
Right.
This record. So I heard this. So Jack showed me this. I had never heard this band, and we were in the UP, and we were driving back to the Mackinac, the bridge,
Mackinac Bridge.
the Mackinac Bridge. We were driving on the way back from visiting Jack's in-laws, Joel's father. We were staying there for the weekend in northern Michigan for like a week or something. And we were driving back through the snow, and Jack puts this record on, and I was like, who's this band? And he's like, oh, dude, it's In the Woods, and it's Heart of Ages. And
That's a good album.
So I have another vinyl pressing that's older, but this was just a reissue where they did the original art. And it's got some bonus tracks and stuff. I have the Candlelight version, Back on Black version. It's cool. But this is better because it has the original cover art. It's colored vinyl. It's amazing. And this record, they went on to do Green Carnation, which really only had one record that I liked, which was that Light of Day, Day of Darkness. It's like prog. It's good.
Well, In the Woods got real proggy too as they went.
At the end, yeah. Isle of Man is really good. That's a good record, like the demo. But then this was the only full length that's kept with the black metal sound. Yeah. And God, man, this record is just amazing. I mean, it's so atmospheric. It's so ethereal. It's got some progressive moments. The vocals are just raging, just absolutely crushing. Great record. If you don't have it, get it.
Good shit.
You're missing out.
Yeah. Their proggy stuff is really interesting too. I like Amino, and even Strange in Stereo has a lot of cool stuff on it. Very different style.
Honestly, I've never heard those albums in full.
Oh, really?
Nope.
Yeah, I've never been wild about really anything after the heart was it heart of the ages. I always say Heart of Ages, but it's Heart of the Ages.
Yeah. No, Heart of Ages, I like that one too. It was the first one I heard. I followed them through a lot of their career, and yeah, they got on a very different track very early on, but they did really good with that. Yeah, much more progressive sound as well. Those albums are cool in their own right, but it's almost like it's a totally different band.
Totally, I agree. They just it was a segue into the Green Carnation stuff,
All right, Alan.
I'm gonna run.
All right. Next one I'm going to mention, I don't think, maybe I'm drawing a blank, but we've covered a lot of territory tonight. I don't know if we've mentioned any U.S. bands.
I got a couple coming.
Yep. Well, I'll start the ball rolling with an old one from a band from Memphis, Epoch of Unlight.
Well, they were good.
Yeah, they really were. This
Saw
one
them
came
live
out in-
once. They were good.
This one came out in '98, and black metal had some trouble finding its footing in the United States. It obviously, of course, exploded on the European scene, and people in the U.S., musicians, started tinkering with it, but it definitely took a while for a scene to congeal and for bands to kind of find their way with it. A lot of U.S. black metal was not looked upon very favorably in the mid and late 90s, and a lot of times there were reasons for that. That folks were a little too caught up in the drama and the crime and the looking the part, and they didn't always have the sound nailed down very well. Matt over on the Dark Path channel has done some videos on U.S. black metal that have some really good insights into that kind of stuff. And I remember when this band came out with Epoch of Unlight, and they had, I first heard their album. It's like, it is not. I'm not going to make a claim that it's like one of the greatest, most essential albums of all time. It's not. It has its issues still. But I do remember thinking, like, this was one of the first times where a band felt like they really were getting a good sound nailed down.
Yeah.
That they weren't just trying to do the atmospherics for the sake of the atmospherics, and they weren't just trying to do the cult look for the sake of it. That these guys had an idea of what they wanted to sound like and how they were going to present it. That was going to be their own thing. That you would call it black metal, but it wasn't just trying to copycat Dark Throne or trying to be a Burzum clone. So I thought it was this was around the time when I felt like this band was showing the way that American bands were going to become important to black metal.
They're from Memphis, Tennessee.
Yep. Memphis band.
I guess they just got back together too.
Did they?
I noticed that. Yeah. They you were back on the map. So I haven't heard anything newer by them. I heard this one they did Caught in the Unlight as a follow up was also not a perfect album. It had its issues, but
had a dumb cover if I remember right.
Yeah, it's got like a dwarf with like
album too.
Weird lighting.
Yeah,
but yeah, I thought it definitely if you're looking for those kind of unsung 90s black metal albums, Epoch of Unlight, they got they were a little blip on the radar there just because they were a U.S. band, and at the time that in and of itself was a little bit of a novelty. But yeah, this was one that wasn't, so easy just to blow off. It's like, oh yeah, those guys are just, they saw some pictures of Varg and decided to go, dress up. This was a band like, no, these guys are a band. They've got a direction they're trying to go in. So wanted to, give that one a shout out.
We used to see them back when I lived in Memphis. They used to play shows all the time. I used to see them at the High Tone Cafe like regularly. In fact, at one point they were looking for a guitar player when I was like 19 or something, and I asked to audition for them.
Oh, really? Cool.
And I got dude's phone number, the drummer's phone number. I think his name was Tony or something.
Great drummer.
He was really good, and we used to see them play when I was like 18 years old. So I was like, I'll audition, and I sat by the phone, like waiting to get to audition for them, and they never called me. They totally blew me off.
They probably broke up.
No, it was before they had another album after that. They ended up getting a different guitar player.
Oh.
I never even got to audition for them, but I threw my hat in the ring. But I was just a teenager. I barely even had any of my own gear. I had like a crappy crate, half stack and a cheesy Ibanez bolt-on, neck guitar. And I was not a particularly good musician, but I liked going to their shows, and I knew that there was an opening, and I was like, oh yeah, like I would love to try out, and I would have failed miserably if I had gotten the call. But I gave them my phone number, and I just waited. They're they're gonna call, and they never
Every
did.
time the phone ring, Mom, it's for me, it's for me, it's for me.
No. I was in college. I was living with a bunch of dirty crust punks
Right on.
at the time. I was a dirty crust punk, and but we used to go see them play all the time.
I saw them once. They were really good.
They were great live.
Yep.
Their bass player had the longest hair, and he would circle bang, and his hair would just windmill like it was huge. You know, they were awesome, and they were a great band. I mean, and they were the only black metal band in Memphis.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, they were one of the few black metal bands, that really were getting any attention much of anywhere, especially in that whole region of the U.S. at the time.
They ripped. They were great. I mean, they did 3 albums. They were all in the End Records, I think.
Yep.
Yeah,
They were.
Yep.
Yeah, and the last one had some mathematical title. I can't remember what it was.
Conjecture or something.
I remember when it came out. I got a copy of it, and by that time I was living in Louisville. And
Continuum
Continuum, yeah.
hypothesis. Yeah.
I had a friend that was studying math for his like PhD or whatever, and he saw the album title and he tried to explain it to me, and I was like, I don't get it. Sorry, but I'm lucky to memorize my own phone number.
All right.
So somewhere there's an alternate universe where they called you and you went and auditioned, and you have a different musical trajectory from that point forward.
And Panopticon never happened, and a bunch of middle-aged dads were sad.
Yeah, but an Epoch of Unlight maybe became the next emperor or something. Who knows?
Oh God, no. I'm not a particularly good musician, so I probably would have done them wrong anyways. I think
I'll let the chat correct you on all this.
Oh God, this comment, and again,
Get on him, guys. Go ahead. That's your cue. Start posting.
Oofda.
All right, here we go. Since Alan cracked the seal on the U.S. scene, I'm from Michigan, so I gotta rep a couple Michigan bands. And this album rules. And this band was great live. I've seen them probably about 4 or 5 times over the years. Lucifer's Hammer, The Mists of Time.
Oh, yeah.
This is pretty doomy black metal. Basically, there is a heavy Viking era battery worship going on here, but it's just slow, mid to mid pace doomy black metal. Their demo, The Burning Church, was just reissued by Nuclear War Now this year or last year. I can't remember. Time escapes me, but this is their debut full length. It was great. This is a great album, man. These guys were, in fact, there you go. Blood on Ice shirt. Todd the singer. Yeah, I mean, this band was great, and this is a great CD. And they had a second CD that came out as well. I don't know if it was ever really released. I've got a copy of it that Todd's mom gave me. She was Metal Mom. She was a promoter for downstate. They did all the Michigan Death Fests. So I've seen this band a bunch. They're great. This is an absolutely great, atmospheric, awesome, well-written, blackish doom album. And let's stick with Michigan and go with the predecessor to Masochist, Summon. Dark Descent of Fallen Souls. This is another band. This band I've seen a million times over the years. The drunker they are, the better they play, man. I don't get it. They're falling down, screwing around, and they get up on stage and just absolutely crushed. They were so good. They put out a bunch of records on Moribund over the years, but they came from the classic old band Masochist. They've been around forever. Chaz. Sean is now in the band Cavalcade. My band opened for him once. Did we open for them at that show? I think we did. Yeah. Good stuff. Great. Super fast, melodic, but aggressive Michigan black metal. It's good stuff. And I will pass the gauntlet on to Austin.
This guy, Human Falafel.
Yep.
that he said darker than 3-6 Mafia. That shit was funny. That was really good. Sorry, but I just had to recognize the, comedic genius of that comment. That was phenomenal. Next record that I have, I'm going to do two bands. They're both kind of, one of them is an American band technically, but it's by a guy who I think is not American. But the first band is definitely American. And this was a band that when I got into black metal, most of what I knew was European stuff. In the early 2000s, I didn't get into black metal until like 2000. And this record was a record that kind of made me realize that black metal could be very personal. It didn't have to be about, the typical goat worship, cult kind of crap.
Or Jesus on skis.
But it's Krieg.
Oh, yeah.
The Black House. And this record has always stuck with me because this record's very personal. It's a very harrowing release. It's very difficult to listen to, not sonically, but if you read through the lyrics and liner notes. And I've got multiple pressings of this. This is the original, and I've got the original CD, and then I've got the reissue vinyl and the reissue cassette that have liner notes from a later date. And this record is like super personal, and it's awesome. I love the cover. It's kind of reminds me of a cover that I've seen that I've done.
Yeah.
Didn't really put that together until just now.
Well, there's a difference between a cabin and a barn, so you're good.
There you go. That makes it okay. But yeah, this record, I love this record, and I love the fact that there's a cover. Was it a Velvet Underground or Velvet? Yeah,
Velvet Underground. Yeah.
Cover at the end. It's just a really, really killer record. It's a very personal moment. It's different from the rest of the Krieg discography. It's just a really important record. I think it's making, black metal is more than bullet belts. It's personal experience, and it's, your perspective on life and music and your own horrors and your own nightmares, in sound. Great album. I think it's crucial to American black metal. I think Krieg is a super important band as far as American black metal goes.
Yeah.
But I feel like that record in particular it's really impactful to me.
I really liked Rise of the Imperial Hordes. It was a sloppy mess, but Neil's vocals were crazy on that record.
Yeah.
It really set a tone. I really liked that record.
There's a lot of Krieg records that I really like, but that one is the one that I come back to pretty regularly.
He even had a stint with the war metal stuff, which I didn't really care for as much, but
Sure.
he's been consistent and good.
Yeah, I don't know.
That one,
as well as
that
I
one
should.
particularly is just, I don't know. There's something about it that I just return back to over and over again.
Yeah, I don't know their catalog as well as I should, but yeah, they were definitely one of the bands that started helping U.S. black metal be taken a little more seriously back in the day. That 9 out of 10 bands were getting laughed off. Krieg was one that got people to stop just joking around and actually pay attention and be like, okay, now this band might have something going on here. Let's follow up on these guys. So yeah, they were. You're right, Austin. They were very important in that sense.
Yep.
So I'm gonna do these three records at once. So this is like the end of the 2000s. Crom. This is their demos. It's just reprising the 90s black metal style.
Mm-hmm.
I think the guy behind this, I know he was in Evoken at one point, wasn't he?
Let me check.
I'm pretty sure of it. He was in Evoken at one point. He's in a death metal band now that I haven't bought the record from, that I need to. And these demos are fantastic. They're total 90s black metal worship. I think this was recorded in the late 90s, and this was the first thing I got by this band. And it just really, I really loved the atmosphere, the feeling, the lo-fi feeling of it. The first full length is amazing. This A World Through Dead Eyes is great. But their album, and this came out in I think like 2004, so it was kind of later than the period we're talking about, was this Haunting Presence. This is different than the CD cover because this vinyl version came out years later. And
How do you spell their name? I'm having a hard time.
Krohm.
Krohm.
Okay.
This record is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's so atmospheric. It's so haunting. It's so beautiful. And the CD version, I love the artwork. It's like this misty Pacific Northwest forest, and then this version, it has like you can't really see it because my lighting is not great, but it's like kind of like a
Using Ambassador drawn and quartered and Invoking and Funebrary.
woman's face, and it's just incredible. It just reprises this like 90s style. It's awesome. I mean, it's just killer record. All three of those records are fantastic. He did a split with the guy from Beatrick.
With who?
The Italian band Beatrick. They only did one record. It was kind of like early Catatonia worship, like Dance of December Souls style, but it was his band after that. So that's the only thing I don't have on wax from Krohm. But Krohm is awesome. It's really, 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 really good.
All right, Alan.
All right. Let's see. Well,
I'll be right back.
But we'll go back again to another one from Sweden. I hadn't heard or even thought of this album in a long time until Austin came up with this really cool idea for a topic. As another one I owned once upon a time and just don't have a physical copy of anymore, but it's Thy Primordial, Where Only the Seasons Mark the Passage of Time. Not the shortest title of an album ever. This one, I always thought the cover was pretty cool. It's very freaky. But the thing that always set this one apart was it's blisteringly fast. It doesn't go for the lo-fi production like a lot of the Swedish stuff. It's a little better produced. But yeah, it's very, very fast, very speedy, and the vocals on it are almost shrill. It sounds good, and the songs are pretty cool. There are times where the vocals can get a little grating, for me at least. This is the kind of album where I would listen to maybe half of it, and sometimes just have to take a break. So I just can't quite process that pitch on the vocals anymore. But it still was a cool album nonetheless. And it was this was a band that you'd hear the name get dropped every now and then, but they never quite seemed to get a whole lot of distribution, or again, they never quite got over the top. But yeah, it was a neat album, and somebody had ordered it as like an import back in the day and didn't like it, so they traded it to me, and I kept it for a long time. But yeah, if you like your Swedish black metal really on the faster side, and you don't mind the vocals really getting up there, then this is a pretty cool album and one to check out.
Speaking of bands that have "thy" in the name, are you familiar with Thy Serpent?
Yep, it's another one that I had thought about talking about tonight.
Yeah, I almost pulled their record too.
Thy Serpent, I was going to grab it, but I didn't do it.
I've got Forest of Witchery on wax, and I love that record. And Christ Crusher is really good too.
Christ Crusher was the one I was going to mention. Yeah, that one is it doesn't have this quite as much the velocity and such as Thy Primordial. They rein it in a bit more, but it's a really well produced album.
Sure.
Yeah, it has a really good sound to it. I always remember it stood out because it has that weird cover with just the two big lightning bolts.
Yep.
On the cover of it, which always just and just very plain lettering, which was very unusual. Everybody was doing the whole black metal logo thing, and it's like, nope, here's some lightning bolts, and you can read her name very easily. But yeah, the music held up really good on that.
Alan,
one too.
what did you just show?
Thy Primordial.
I had them as well. I pulled them, and I don't know what you said. I was going potty, but I mean, it was basically, I think Marduk kind of stifled a band like this from really growing to popularity.
Yeah, Thy Primordial, they probably were just a little too late to the party. By the time their stuff was coming out, it was getting hard to get noticed. You already had so many bands that were established as sort of the leaders of the pack. And at that point, bands were just hoping to break through, but it was getting really hard to. It was a very crowded scene by the time you got to that point in the late 90s.
I really liked. I mean, they were nothing new, but they were fast and they were super. I mean, they were like the stereotypical Swedish black metal style. I mean, they dug into that fast and melodic really well. And I don't have their last album, but I've got all the rest of them, and I enjoyed them over the years. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, the Thy Primordial and Thy Serpent, a good 1-2 punch there.
Yeah.
Bands that start with Thy.
Yes.
And Thy Serpent just reissued the Forest of Witchery LP a couple years ago.
It's a good album.
Yeah, it's great. But it's the thing is like, do they fit into the black metal thing, or is it dark? Is it dark metal?
I remember they actually, kind of. They described themselves as it was dark anti-Christian metal.
Yeah,
they didn't like the term black metal because they weren't Satanists, and they really associated black metal with the whole satanic vibe at the time. So they didn't actually want to use the tag black metal to describe themselves. Yeah, you're right. They went with that. It was dark anti-Christian metal.
Yep.
He looks black metal to me, man. A snake and some shitty makeup. Come on.
And he's got a bullet belt going on.
The only thing he's missing is the bullet belt codpiece.
That record's great, man.
It's a great record. A good vibe on this.
Killer album. And also they do have a shitty black metal logo.
They do.
Yes, they do. They just on Christ Crusher they didn't use it.
Got the Egyptian Eye of Ra in there too. It looks like, which makes no.
I have a T-shirt with the Forest of Witchery reissue with that logo on it, and it's totally off center and not symmetrical. It looks like it was drawn on somebody's like binder in high school. And that record is awesome. It's so good. I love that album. It's so good. I wish they would
keep black metal.
The other two full lengths on vinyl too, but nobody's done them yet. Maybe they will someday, and then I will buy them.
Yep. That era of stuff. I mean, it's obviously gotten a lot of reissues and stuff, but it isn't necessarily quite old enough to hit that retro cool vibe just yet. We're at the 20. We're getting there. We're getting close. We're almost up to the 30-year mark. A lot of times for those kind of things, it seems to be the 30-year mark is when people really get that nostalgia for those things, and you start seeing a lot of the reissues come out.
It's a very nostalgia-driven scene, no doubt.
It very much is. Heavy metal itself is, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised within like the next 5 years or so if we don't see a lot of this kinds of stuff we're talking about tonight get pushed to the forefront of a lot of these reissue efforts.
Absolutely. And I will be waiting with my PayPal account.
and our wallets will be sad and empty.
Yep.
Our record collections will be full.
We shall have huge tracks of vinyl.
Let's go back to Norway. This is another band that never took off, and I don't get it because they were good. Demonic, Lead Us into Darkness, and their full length, The Empire of Agony. This is a Norwegian duo. This shit was out on Necropolis. They were an early Necropolis band. that stuck with them for a while. They only put out the 2 releases. This is really good atmospheric, kind of brutal black metal for Norway, but it definitely has the Norwegian sound. I always like the songwriting on both of these albums. I mean, this is the mini CD that came out first. A couple of these songs ended up being on the full length, but really atmospheric and aggressive Norwegian black metal. Really solid. No one ever talks about them. Let's talk about Strid.
Oh, you beat me to it, you
Why
bastard.
don't you grab the vinyl? Because I just have really good, depressive, dark, nasty.
Here's the wax version of the one that you're holding.
Yep.
And then here's the bootleg of the 2 releases that has been floating around for years.
Cool.
They're listed on Metal Archives as still active, which I don't know.
They are. And I have information because I wrote the label and was like, listen, I need to know. I just was like, hey, I'm a dork fan. I just got to know. And apparently, so I found some shows where they're playing new material.
Oh.
Stuff I've never heard. And I watched the shows and I was like, okay, they're playing Not Vandring and they're playing a couple other songs that I know because there's only 3 songs that you can get because there's the 7-inch in the demo.
Mm-hmm.
But if they played new stuff at their show. The Prophecy Fest is all like a bunch of new songs. And so I wrote Prophecy and I was like, look, this is eating me up. You know, I was like, I'm a big fan. Can you give me any information? And they said, you know, the new album is in the works. And they've been working on it for many years, but one of the founding members committed suicide. So they, you know, they made a big post about it on their Facebook page saying that they were not going to continue. And then they decided to continue anyways a couple years later. And the record is being recorded. And so, according to their Bandcamp page, they've signed to Prophecy Productions and they will release their album in 2021.
Huh. Great.
That's what it said, at least. And so then I wrote them and I was like, what's up with this? And they were like, we don't know when it's coming. But supposedly there is an album.
Great.
And I mean, but this, you know, this has got the demo from their previous band on it as well. And then this is just the 3 songs recorded in the 90s. And these are crucial records.
It's really good. Dark, depressive, Norwegian black metal. Good shit.
Incredible.
And we're going to stick with Norway here. I'm going to do one more before I jump off. I still have more stuff, but I'm getting down to the end. I really enjoyed the heck out of this band when I first stumbled across it back in the day, and it's Menace.
Oh.
These are the demos. This is the I can't say that. Here's another demo.
Hang on, that's in my next up this Menace.
And the debut full length.
So Kongens Grav the Døde Vandrer is what I've got.
Hold on.
So Kongens Grav the Døde Vandrer. To the King's Grave Death Wanders, I think it says.
Huh. That must be, hold on.
This is the second or third demo before.
See, I don't have the third. It's the third demo because oh damn it, I don't have the third demo.
This is right before the full length, the Untitled Chapter.
Which is this is the
that
Trade Hammerheart.
This is right before that.
You want to talk about a band that took a shit after this?
Yeah, but then they reprised themselves as Mani.
Oh,
Manii.
Ah, okay. See, I did not know that.
Yeah, and they did a 7-inch, which was 2 re-recordings from this era, and then they did a mini LP called Collapse, and then or Collapsen or something like that. I can't remember. I've got it, but I just have to dig it up. And then they did a mini EP that came out on Terra Tour Productions. and they're all awesome, and they all sound like old Monmouths.
Huh.
So worth your time.
Okay.
Super
Check
good.
that out.
I'm on the Metal Archives, and the list is immense. There's like a bunch of compilation stuff. I know they got electronic or something for a while.
But then they kind of returned back, and they had dude from Zaster did vocals, and dude from Shining did vocals briefly.
I don't like that guy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you want to say if you, as my mom always said, if you can't say something nice, you shouldn't say anything else. But this demo, the Kongens Grav the Döda Vandra, this record is like crucial.
Damn it. I don't have that one.
Dude, they did these reissues of the demos on vinyl, and then they reissued the full length, the black metal full length.
Yep.
And they were crucial, man. They're great records.
Great stuff.
Really gross, really raw.
Yep.
And the Monty stuff is awesome too. If you have the stomach for really lo-fi black metal, it is totally up your alley. Well, am I up now?
You're up.
You worked out about months.
You're already up there, so you might as well do it.
Eastwind. This Dark Waters Stir, I think it's called. Doesn't say on the record what it's called. I love this band. I think they're great. I think they're super underrated. This EP is amazing, but honestly, everything after this is great too, especially the most recent full-length Good.
Oh, I've got that on vinyl. That's a good one.
It is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But this EP in particular, I think, is really, I don't understand why this didn't take off and become as big as Emperor and Mayhem and all that shit. I mean, this is just as good. It's incredible. And Good, the new record, is amazing. It's just an incredible album. Yeah. Great band. Great band. So.
Might as well pull. You getting down, or you want to pull another one?
Sure, I'll pull another one. I got a bunch more. So I don't have the first couple of records like that were in the end of the 90s on vinyl by this band, so I just picked the one that I had that is the oldest, and I figured that the two albums, I think it's two albums before this, the one with the black and white cover, and then they just recently reissued them, but I haven't gotten them yet. But they're from Rosenheim, Germany, Lunar Aurora.
Right on.
This record's great. The albums before are great. The albums after it are great. Their best record is the last one, in my opinion, that I'm not even going to try to say the name of it. Horgarsh or it's German. I can't
Horgarsh? Ars?
Yeah, I can't even. But it's awesome. I mean, it's just great. And interesting thing, one of the members of this band did some guest spots on the new Valgiflister record.
Oh, cool.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, this band is awesome. Their records are fantastic, especially the very last album that they did. So it's just got a cool atmosphere. It's really cold. So worth your time.
Awesome.
Whole discography is worth your time. And then keeping it German, we already covered this.
Oh yeah.
The German Nagelfar.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that because I know that Jan is gonna see this and he's just gonna roast me. But this one is great, and I feel like
that's a cover I have not seen. That must be a recent reissue.
Yeah, they changed the cover art for this release. This is the.
Is it the debut?
Lupus Lounge did the original, right?
Hold on, let me grab it.
I don't know who did this version. They did a whole string of reissues of their material, and they're all really high quality vinyl reissues. They're great. And I feel like this band was once again one of those bands that kind of precursor to Drawtran. You know, I feel like Drawtran kind of picks up. And then when Drawtran broke up, they went off and did the Arsithirthins, which is a great band as well.
That's Naglfar, right?
Yeah, Naglfar.
I've got
That's the newer one on
Yep,
Van.
that's the original cover there.
Kettle Hund Records. And it's also worldwide distribution by Napalm and SPV. Hold on. Yeah. Great record.
Oh, this is Vaughn Records that did this reissue. Vaughn Records.
This is my favorite by them. Love this record. So aggressive. It's on the Kettle Hund Records as well.
Do you have Virus West?
I do. I have it on vinyl too. It's got a different cover on vinyl.
Yep, my vinyl version's got a different cover. That record rules.
It's got the same cover that Judas Iscariot used to embrace the corpse's bleeding. It's a Gustav Dorr cover, I believe.
My version of it has a similar cover to the CD. It's just like a slightly different variant, but it looks really good. It's cool, and it's a great record. But this one I kind of feel like is the first full length is the one that's kind of an intro to that band, and it's a great sound.
Here we go.
Marty's going to get his. Whoa, yeah, I've never seen that.
This is a Perverted Taste German pressing.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I've never seen that before. Never seen that version.
Are you good, Austin? Are we going to Alan?
Oh yeah, man. I'm getting down. This is all I got left.
Right on.
So I'm getting down. I'm rifling through.
Good
Mr.
deal.
Allen.
All right, since we're getting to the end of the stack, I've got shout out two more real quick. We'll make two more trips back to Sweden. This one falls very much in line with the Swedish style. It's unanimated in the Forest of Dreaming Dead.
Yeah.
It's just another solid one that very much straddles that black death metal line. I tend to see more people put this one on the death metal side of the line for some reason, but musically, I mean, it's very much in line with the dissections and sacramentums of the world.
Yep.
The only thing I can think about why maybe they put this one on the other side of the line is that, you know, the aesthetics here, you know, the guys are not, you know, painted up and the cover is not black and white or Necrolord art. That is, people just look at it and think it looks more like a death metal record, maybe. But in terms of the sonics, it's very much in line with, you know, all the good Swedish stuff. It's another band that, you know, was very strong for just a little bit. You know, they could have been the big band out of Sweden. You know, if these guys get noticed by Nuclear Blast instead of Dissection or something like that, then yeah. But like you said, you know, some of the big labels, you know, they pick their one champion, and the rest of the bands are always on these smaller labels that never quite got, you know, all the promotion and the distribution to help them get over the top too. But yeah, it's another very solid one in the Swiss vein. And last one I was going to shout out was album from Ancient Wisdom called For Snow Covered the Northland. I always liked that one because it is a little more slower paced of an album, a little more stripped down in sound. It's relatively simple, but it did a really good job, you know, developing that snowy winter atmosphere.
Yeah.
Kind of sound.
The one I was thinking of.
Yeah, it's a really nice one, and it's not, you know, it has the wintry sound, but it's not trying to be, you know, cold in a cult sense or a evil sense. It just has, it's a little bit more like Arcturus in that sense. It just has, you know, this really strong winter vibe throughout the whole album, and it has a couple, you know, really strong tracks on that one. So I'll wrap it up with those two. Another nice pair from Sweden that just don't ever quite get the respect. Ancient Wisdom, I noticed, is back together and did an album recently after like a 17-year
hiatus. So,
I didn't realize Jens Ryden from Nagelfar was in this.
Yep, sure was.
Did not know that.
Yep, I have not had a chance to check out. I want to say the new one came out in 2019, but I may be wrong on that. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but it's on my radar to do. So I've got it marked on Bandcamp to go back to.
Huh. Interesting.
So, yep, I will call my stack to an end there and let you guys finish up strong here with whatever you've got left.
Okay. I'm going to end with 2 more Norwegian bands. Well, I'm not going to end. I've got a couple more, but I'm almost at the end here. Vedwin and Zende. I love this album. I also like the demo.
Yep.
They're completely strange, but in a good way. This band ended up breaking up and turning into the band Virus, which sounds a lot like this, but maybe a little less black metal, a little more, I don't want to say alternative, but there's still a weird, strange Voivod injected metal creation. But this album is great. It came out in, hold on, I'll tell you. It was right during the Written Waters came out in 95. So, I mean, this is right in the heyday. And it sounded like nothing else in Norway. Straight up weird, jazzy moments. Vic Noctic, who went on to be in... he was in Dodheimsgard, right?
I'm not sure.
That sounds right, but I don't know for sure.
I've got the demo reissue on wax of that, and then I've got the back on black pressing, and then just recently, the same label that did that reissue of In the Woods did a true to the original reissue of that album, and I've got that too. And that was a band that took me a really long time to get used to, because when I first heard them, I wasn't wild about it, but it took me some time. Ben was always pushing that band on me.
Yeah.
And in time, I've gotten used to it, and I've started to really like it. But it was definitely one of those bands that, like, you hear it and you respect it. It's unique. It's great music, but it's also like, it's just such outsider black metal. It's outside the realm of the style, you know. And so it's one of those bands that, like, I know, like, some of the members of Ulver were in that band too.
Yeah, it's got Skull, who was in Arcturus and Ulver and Fimbulvinter, and Aggressor, which is this guy who was in Ara Noir. He was also in Immortal for a hot minute. He was in Virus for a minute. Dimmu Borgir live, apparently. I didn't know that. Flaherty he was in for a while live. And Vic Noctic, who was also in Dodheimsgard, Manus, Strid, Flaherty live as well.
That's a hell of a rap sheet.
I mean, a lot of this is basically a band of, I mean, Norway was kind of the king scene of side project bands. They kind of made it a thing where a lot of the side projects were just as good as the original bands they were coming from. And this was a very jazzy experiment, a very jazzy black metal experiment. But when it comes for me, the main Norwegian black metal experience, there's a lot. But this album, Arntor by Winder, this band, when this album came out, should have been fucking huge. I mean, I like that one. I like all their albums.
That's my favorite one.
But if you don't say that Arntor is your favorite, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because this thing, the folk infusion on this stuff and these triumphant harmonies, holy shit.
It's amazing.
It's like amazing world building music. I mean, I put this on, I feel like I'm lost in the mountains. I've never been there, but I feel like I'm there. And I like the early stuff. I like what came after, but this is like a pure Norwegian black metal statement. It's got everything.
That's hands down my favorite Vendetta album, and they are my favorite Norwegian band.
Yeah.
Period. But
And-
this, I chose to pick this, the Soknadalda. I chose to pick this one just because I feel like this one gets passed over a lot.
It's a great record. It's great. But this is the full realization.
Absolutely.
This is his folkiest album for me, I think.
It's brilliant.
It's the most the harmonies on this thing are just soaring, amazing. Nothing like it. And he just took Norwegian black metal to a more positive place. I don't want to say positivity because there's a darkness to this too, but it's just so uplifting and powerful and well written. One guy wrote all this shit and he programmed those drums out on the fucking computer. It's just amazing to watch that documentary.
The drums on that are actually real. I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think that he wrote everything and then he had a drummer who learned it all. And I think the same thing on Soknadalda. I think it's the same deal. He did everything else except for the drums, but he programmed it all. I mean, there's not a bad Vindare album. They're all great.
Right.
I mean, that band is like one of my favorite bands of all time. I mean, I'm just upset. I mean, it's the reason that there's swords in my logo, because that was my little like nod to this band. This band changed the way that I looked at this music. I mean, they're just incredible. And On Tour that record is, God, I mean, what an album.
What an album.
It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I'm really surprised it took 3 hours for one of you two to bring that band up. I've been waiting
This
for
was
it
my
since
last
we started.
record. I saved this for the end because I wanted to end on this record because of how important this band is to me.
Yeah.
And then
That's
Marty
cool.
brought it up, so I snatched it from the back because it's so important to me. This band is so important to me. And somebody just brought up the vinyl releases. I waited and waited to the point where I was like literally finding like companies that make, single print bootleg vinyl just because it was so important to me to have these records on vinyl in my collection.
Well, we were told we wanted to do them.
Yeah, we tried.
Wanted to do it for Byron, but
I wrote and tried to license these for Bindrune and never got a response.
because it was already in motion with the bigger label.
No, it was years before. I wrote a letter in English and a letter in Norwegian, which was probably totally ridiculous. just being like, I'll grasp at straws. Just let me try my best. Please just let us put this out. Because I didn't care who did it. Somebody had to do it.
Yeah.
Somebody had to put it out on vinyl. And then the box set came out, which I have one. It's up there. It's like a piece of furniture, so I'm not going to grab it. It's huge.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as soon as they sell out of the gigantic wooden piece of furniture with vinyl in it, then they were like, yeah, also there's going to be this cool colored vinyl version. And I was like, bastards, I'm going to buy that too.
Yeah.
And of course I did, because
Collector scum goes, I need to have it. Yeah.
But I mean, these records are just so important and so crucial. I mean, they're amazing, every single one of them. I mean, it's awesome, and I hope that they'll eventually do a vinyl version of the live material and the demos that came out on the Valfara and Vindare tribute release. That would be great to have on wax too someday. But this record On Tour 1184 Leak Fair, can't go wrong.
It's all good, man, but Arntor is where it's at. That's the
I agree with you, especially the
peak
what's
statement.
the song? The song is Socknet. That song is just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a moment on tour that's not incredible. There's never a second where I'm like, man, I wish I was listening to something else.
Yeah.
Like every time I put that record on, I'm just like, wow.
Yep.
This guy says, how can we gouge these nerds even more?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I fell for it. Sorry, bud.
Well, I got them all on CD. I'm fine with that, but
I had to. I thought about buying the tapes too, which is I don't even listen to Teenage Direly, but just that band's so important to me. Like, I don't know, they're just so incredible. It's such a majestic sound. You know, I mean, I didn't hear them until maybe the year before Wildfire passed away was when I got into them. And I remember hearing it and just being like, what the hell is this? This is so amazing. It's so different than anything else.
Yep.
I mean, fuck, even on there's a song on Scars that Blå Timen that it was literally written in tribute to Wildfire. It was like my attempt to pay homage to this brilliant musician who has influenced me so much. And, you know, I don't know. I can't gush about it enough, man.
No, it's good. Perfect stuff.
Phenomenal music. So.
Okay, Austin.
All right. Should I just crank through the last ones I have?
Well, I can crank through mine in the next one. I only have 2 more bands, so.
Yep. Well, we have Perished.
Oh, wow.
Sade.
Yeah.
This record's awesome. It's kind of Black and Death almost.
Yeah.
I always kind of felt like it was almost kind of dissection-y. But this record's just really aggressive. It's really good. There's a 10-inch that came out before it. I like this record a lot. It's just really brutal, really aggressive. Good. I think they were Swedish, weren't they?
I believe so. Let me check.
Yeah, this record's awesome. You know, the cover art's kind of ridiculous. It's like a Viking killing a monk, you know.
They are Norwegian.
They're Norwegian.
Wait. What's the name of that album?
Sade.
Yeah, they're Norwegian.
Okay. I don't know why I thought they were Swedish. I didn't know. Love this record. It's really good, really aggressive. And I will go next to, oh man, so I only have 3 left, but the one that I'm going to do is going to be an interesting thing to talk about.
Mike's just tuning in at the end. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike. Hey, buddy. What a perfect time for Mike to join. Suicide Nation, a requiem for all that ever mattered. This record is a bunch of hardcore kids from Arizona in the late 90s that decided that they wanted to make a black metal album. And they had an album before this, and it was really great. But this is more brutal and more blasting and more extreme. It's almost grindy. Extremely personal lyrics about religion, life struggles, friendships. Mike says, fuck yes. So this was the band that, like, when I got into this band at the time, growing up in rural Tennessee, I kind of thought, you know, black metal is just for people who wear pantyhose on their arms. Because that was what the people that I knew that listened to black metal was all Cradle of Filth and that kind of thing. It was all these goth kids. And I always just thought it was kind of corny, you know, and this band exposed me to that sound, and I was like, holy shit, like this is really aggressive, really intense. It opened up my kind of sonic perspective to all this music that I had never really considered because of the subject matter. Because at that time, you know, I was, 16, angry at the world, and this really spoke to me because it spoke the same feelings and language that I felt at that time, but with a sound that I had never considered, because at that time it was just, crust and thrash and death metal and grind, and all that was the only thing that I listened to. And this made me go back and look into black metal and consider it, for the music rather than the subject matter that I might not have related to at the time. So I covered one of their songs on a split, and ended up becoming friends with the vocalist Matt. He's a lifelong friend at this point. This record is incredible. It was put out by King of the Monsters, which is like a hardcore label, and it's just really passionate, really angry, very sincere emotion. It's not like, bullet belts and spike gauntlets and shit like that. It's, real life struggles and anger towards society. And it's brutal. I mean, it's like blasting fury for the whole record. So you could probably get a copy of it for about $10 on Discogs. And it is vicious. Totally worth your time. It is not like production wise what most people would expect in the metal scene. It's pretty raw. And the CD version comes with a live set where they play pretty much the entire album, and then they play like an Endfest cover. So it's worth getting if you're even remotely interested in it. This was totally the band that inspired me when I was 16 years old. So check it out.
Cool. It's one I've seen that and come across it, but yeah, the name always kind of threw me. It's just like that's an odd name for something that's kind of associated with the black metal tag, but that makes sense now having heard you describe it.
Sure.
Totally unassuming cover too. I mean, if I saw that in a rack, I'd be like, eh. Yeah.
Well, the album before that had like a drawn cover. It was kind of weird. They did a split with a hardcore band called Yaphet Kotto, which I'm sure Mike loves. I love them too. They were like, they were brilliant. They were an amazing, emotional, political hardcore band. They were on Abolition Records. They were absolutely fantastic. They did, I think, 3 or 4 brilliant full lengths, but they did one split 7-inch. This guy says I have a vampire chair. It's like an old, it's like an old people. This was Grandma and Grandpa Hawkinson's chairs. It's literally like old people chairs. It's a recliner. There's nothing vampiric about it there, buddy.
The chair's a recliner. I don't remember that as
both of them are. Man, you fall asleep in them because they have the little thing where it like cranks and then it levels backwards. Yeah.
Well, that's what all vampire chairs have is recliners.
Put you right to sleep. This is my vampire chair. Then Anyways, back to previous conversations. Not vampiric. Geriatric
Cradle of Filth chairs.
Yeah.
That come with a Dusk and Her Embrace.
It matches his werewolf end tables.
Came in the new box set with Dusk and Her Embrace. Comes with a fucking vampire chair. Costs $500 for the set.
Homeboy just brought up Creationist Crucifixion. Oh, sick. They did a split with Creationist Crucifixion. Great band. Killer.
All right. Let's I got 2 more here to go and we'll be Dunsville with this. All right.
I got 2 as well.
Oh, you do? I thought you were done. Okay.
No, I got you probably have the same ones as me.
I doubt it. This is kind of a weird poll, but when these came out, I listened to them quite a bit. This is a Swedish band called Blodsrit. This is the album Ocularis Infernum and Helvete Scheimner. I've got a couple other of their releases after this on vinyl, which I don't like as much as these two, especially this one. Really well done. They're kind of leaning more into the Norwegian style than the Swedish thing, but this one is maybe a bit more dissection influenced. Really, should these guys have been bigger than they were? Probably not. Both of these came out on Oak and Shield, the same label that put out the Nehema stuff. But it's really solid, well done, well played black metal that really kind of slipped through the cracks. They broke up in 2012. And it was at one point just one dude doing this stuff. But this here was a full band. Good stuff, well done, Swedish black metal stuff. And this album, why this band wasn't huge, I don't know why, but I've shown this album a million times on my channel. Via Dolorosa by Ophthalmia.
Oh, yeah, Ophthalmia.
This fucking album rules. It is so well written.
Great record.
Mostly mid-paced, but really rich, vibrant harmonies, melodies, whatever you want to say on here. It's got Legion from Marduk singing on it. It's got Emil Nodveit from Swordmaster, who's John Nodveit's brother. It's got It from Vondur and Abruptum, who is the main songwriter. And Benny Larson, drummer from Edge of Sanity. I mean, again, supergroups were the fucking thing back in the 90s. It was part of the culture. And a lot of these supergroups produced albums that were just as important as their main band stuff. And Ophthalmia, this is a long, long album. There's a lot of shit going on. There's a lot of riffs. But it's so good, so solid. They end it with a cover of Death Crush by Mayhem, which is good, but it's a completely anticlimactic ending to an otherwise super advanced, really great, well-written album. Then they like lop on a punky slop mess at the end. It just kind of seems anticlimactic to me, but absolutely great.
I'm always against people putting covers at the end of their record for the most part.
I mean, I don't know why. What's the point? I don't get it. Especially something like Mayhem.
Just make it a bonus track that like you have a couple of blank tracks before or whatever.
Yeah, or put it on a 7-inch single with another song that you didn't make the cut. I don't know. But
then
anyway,
again, I've also been guilty of it too because I put an Amebix cover at the end of my first record. So.
But it fits. I mean, it fits. I mean,
Yeah.
you take the rich harmonies on this album and then you cram a punky shitty Mayhem song at the end of this. I mean, everybody's like, shitty Mayhem song. It just is. I'm sorry. Death Crush, not a fan. But this album stands on its own. It didn't need a Mayhem cover on it to sell it. But, I mean, this is a super group. Definitely need to check it out. Awesome stuff.
Great record. That record's killer. Tanner is the one who turned me on to that, actually.
It's great.
Tanner loves Ophthalmia, and
I like this better than Marduk. I mean, I like Panzer Division Marduk. I think is my favorite Legion album. That and Heaven Shall Burn When We Are Gathered. Those are great records. But here we go.
Yeah, I got that Ophthalmia years and years ago. I think I got it from actually somebody who was doing distro through Mexico. And he was getting like a lot of stuff from like Avant-Garde and some of the labels that weren't getting much distro in the US at the time. And so I just, he sent me a lot of really cool stuff back then. I remember it was just always funny that I would have to get this stuff through Mexico,
right?
But yeah, he always had a really good catalog. He would get stuff like Catatonia, the first couple of EPs and stuff before they were really on the map anywhere.
Great.
And somehow that Ophthalmia got in one of my orders as well. And it was a really different album at the time.
Yep.
Really interesting.
Those early Catatonia records are incredible. Like,
great.
I love them.
Yeah, that's they're before they turned into this just sort of sad rock band. They were just amazing.
But even some of the sad rock band stuff is good. I mean,
I like the first one they did in that style.
But Discouraged Ones.
Yeah, I thought they did really good with that. Every album after that, though, it just felt like they were just taking another step down. And
I liked some of it. I liked Night Is the New Day. I liked that record. I thought it was good. I mean, it has its place. It's like, but I tend to be pretty eclectic. But I don't know. Those early records like Brave Murder Day and
so good. Hackerfeld sounds so great on that record.
Dance of December Souls.
Yep.
I mean, those records are great. So speaking of Sweden,
Alan, are you done? Oh no,
I'm going to tap there because I could pull one or two more, but I'm scraping the bottom now. So
all right.
I'll let you guys wrap it up.
I have 3 left.
That's cool.
That's all I got, and then
it's all you, baby.
I didn't pull anything else. So start with so Sarcasm.
Oh, yeah.
They are more of a death metal band, but they were blackened. But we have this demo box set here, and
I didn't know that came out.
yeah, it's super cool. I like this band in general, but there's one particular demo in this box set. I got into this from Tanner. Tanner's the one who exposed me to this band, and it was this specific demo that really did it for me. And it's the most black metal of their stuff because they're kind of like that melodic death, but this Touch of the Burning Red Sunset, this is really, really great. It's just aggressive and raw and pissed, and the intro with the orchestral intro, it's just really aggressive, angry, melodic, furious, and of course they changed afterwards, and they were more death metal-y after that. But I feel like Sarcasm, if you're into that, if you're into this, it's definitely something to give a shot, give it a try.
Came out on Akhenaten from Judas Iscariot, Andy Harris's label back in the day.
The recent full lengths have been good too.
They have been, yeah. I don't have the recent one, but I have the one before it, and it was good.
Yeah, they've been great, and they finally released their proper full length. They did like a vinyl compendium of all their work, which is great. But then they put out 2 new albums after that, and then I'm gonna deviate from Sweden for a minute. I'll end on a Swedish record, but SCG.
It's a great album. They're a good band.
Sorcier de
Glass.
Sorcier de Glace?
Yeah.
Snowland. Original. This is the original and the re-recording.
Yep.
And this record is great. It's an incredible album.
Count Blagarath put that out. Sean Abil. He's an old YouTuber. He's kind of dropped off the face of the earth. Anyway.
I like all of their records.
Yeah. Me too.
I've got pretty much everything except for the new one hasn't been released on vinyl yet. But I
just have the tape of that. It's good.
And I love all of their stuff, but this record is really special. I just love the feeling of it. It's a great record. SCG kicks ass. This is great. And then my last record, one of my favorite black metal albums of all time, and strangely the only record by this band that I truly love, Ethereal Nord. This record is like Anthems to the Welkin and Dusk. And In the Night Side Eclipse combined into one album. This is like if Emperor did an album between those two records, it would have been this. And this record is amazing. Front to back, phenomenal, atmospheric, aggressive black metal. It's just perfect. And, I don't really dig anything after, this record. I tried to get into it.
It just kind of average as they went.
Yeah, but this is not average.
No, it's not. It's really good.
This is incredible. I mean, I don't like this version. They changed the cover art, which I thought was kind of weird because the cover art was so iconic. It had the knotwork frame and the snowy picture. It was so awesome. It fit the record so perfectly. And then they changed it for this vinyl reissue. I had the original CD, but I don't know what happened to it. I can't find it anywhere. I kind of think that probably what happened is that I got drunk and I gave it to somebody because they didn't have it. And I had probably bought it on vinyl by that point.
You probably figured, I don't listen to CDs. Fuck it. Here, take it.
And that's the thing is that like mostly when, ever since I had children, most of the time when I'm listening to music, I don't get to come down here in the basement that much and listen to records. So I end up listening to stuff digitally a lot. And then when the kids are asleep, I'll come down and play records. but I never hardly get to listen to CDs anymore because they're all up in my bedroom, and my bedroom is right next to Runa's room. And so, like, we don't really listen to music in our bedroom anymore because it's so close to the little guy's room.
Yep.
And so I probably was drunk hanging out with somebody, and we were drinking, and I was like, "Oh man, you'd love that album. I'll give you a copy," and then gave it away. And now I can't find it, and I can't remember who I gave it to. But I love this album. It's absolutely incredible. It's amazing. Brilliant album. Ah, motherfucker.
Rick.
It's got my name written on it on the back in Sharpie marker. Property of Austin.
Property of Austin. Yep.
Yeah. It's like my kids' shirts on the tag, Yeah, but yeah, this record, incredible. Just crushing. I mean,
Yep.
Unbelievable album. So that's all I got.
That's it.
Yeah.
3.5 hours. Alan, how you holding up?
Doing good.
Right on.
Yeah. Tons of cool stuff. And there's been a ton of cool stuff mentioned along the way over in the comments too. Thanks to everybody for watching and participating.
Yeah, we had over 60 people at one point. Thank you all for hanging out with us again. And Austin, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. I know this isn't your cup of tea, but it was fun. You showed a lot of great stuff.
Becca was super nervous. She's like, "You're gonna do this thing tonight and talk to people?" Because we're usually so reclusive, But
no, you did fantastic, and yeah, you showed off a ton of cool stuff. A lot of things I haven't thought of in a long time, and some that I definitely need to check out that I don't know.
yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Oh, Shadowwoods, yeah,
Next weekend.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Getting ready.
I mean, I hope everybody hope everybody keeps their distance and doesn't get people sick. Don't get people sick. Yeah, so I'm pretty worried about that.
Well, I think you're getting it in at the right time before things start shutting down again. I mean, I know a lot of bigger bands Garth Brooks canceled his tour. Who else did? 9 Inch Nails, a bunch of other bands are shutting down, but
This is the only show that we have this year. So yeah.
And guys, that's why we do it. Try to turn you guys on to some other stuff. I mean, that's the whole point of these YouTube shows. Try to share good music with other people and some bad music even sometimes, but we really appreciate y'all tuning in. And next week we'll announce something soon. I think it's already planned.
Yep, we got it lined up. But
Cool.
We'll announce it in a few days.
The very last weekend of the month we'll be shifting to another day, perhaps. We'll see what happens, but yeah, we appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. And Austin, we'd love to have you back again at some point.
So somebody said in the comments, "Don't let the candles burn your records." They're LED. They're not real.
You're no vampire.
Well, obviously not. They're LED candles because there's no light over here. The only light source in my basement is a lamp over there, so I put the candles so that I didn't have to sit on the couch that doesn't have a back. It wasn't like I was trying to be some like mysterious atmospheric dude. I just had to fake vampire poser. Yeah.
None of the candles in Anne Rice books have LEDs in them.
Vampires aren't vegan.
How would that work? Fucking chomping down on a celery.
Yeah. Celery blood, bro.
All right, folks. It was good seeing you. Thanks for hanging with us tonight. Cheers. Hang in there. Have a good night.
Everybody have a good weekend.
And we are